Median becomes a zone?
No, it's 60.
That'll be 60.
Yeah, this one is like I'm not going to go straight on a different line, but it's 60 officially. So.
And 60 is what they need, not 61. They need 60, not 61.
Yeah.
At whatever end.
I never.
Is that Minnesota?
No.
What's his face appealed it.
What now goes to the feds? When he appealed it all. In Iowa? I mean, in Minnesota, I think the state.
Right, but then he appealed it, yeah. At some point, he's got to say, come on,
You would think so.
give it up.
I'm sorry about the other day. It's just.
Sub-member mini.
Sub-member mini.
Yeah.
Sub-member sparkle.
A bunch of interesting cases.
Oh, we sure did. Yeah. That's really wrong. I got a lot more. Good afternoon. This is the full task force meeting for the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. Can you call the roll, please?
Member Craven? Member Craven absent. Member Nee?
Here.
Member Nee present. Member Cawthon?
Here.
Member Cawthon present. Member Washburn?
Here.
Member Washburn present. Member Caneva?
Here.
Member Caneva present. Member Johnson? Member Johnson absent. Member Chu?
Here.
Member Chu present. Member Chan? Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Here.
Member Goldman present. Member Williams? Member Williams absent. Madam Chair, we have 6 members present.
Great. We have a quorum. Are there any agenda changes?
There are no agenda changes from me.
Let's call the first item.
The first item is approval of minutes of March 24, 2009.
Are there any comments on the minutes? Members?
I have a couple of questions
Please.
for clarification. The first is at the bottom of page 3 of the minutes, page 9 of the packet. Let's see. It's the first sentence. Respondent Tony Winokur, Director of Communications for the PUC, said most of the conversations with the CISO took place over the phone, and when the department received the request, it did a search made available to complainants all the emails that were responsive to. I think we're missing an and there.
And after search.
Did us and made us okay. Received the just yeah okay. So we need an and in there. Let's see. The other one is on page 10 of the minutes, page 16 of the packet. I'm trying to remember which sentence it was. I think it's the very last one in the paragraph beginning. Chair Chu. It says she also suggested making changes to complaint. No, that isn't the one. Oh, here it is. It's clarification in the first sentence. Chair Chu said the message of the report was to let the supervisors know that the issues have been identified and that the task force would be approaching them with answers in the form of amendments. We should either just say plain issues, but if we're going to say the issues, we should specify what they were or at least give an example of them. You see what I mean?
We can go either way. What do you want to do?
Well, let's make it easy and just say issues. Drop the. So we're not implying some issues that we failed to mention. Then I have some other minor things that I'll turn in later.
Are there any comments in the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Motion to approve as amended?
Can you call the question?
On the motion, Member Craven absent. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon. Aye. Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Member Washburn, aye. Member Knebber.
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams, aye. Madam Chair, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Can you call number 2?
Item number 2 is the determination of jurisdiction and the public hearing on complaint filed by David Larkin against Public Works for withholding reports regarding an employee's behavior.
I move that we find jurisdiction on this item.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item? On jurisdiction of this item? Seeing none, can we call the question?
On the motion to accept jurisdiction, Member Craven. Pass. Member Craven, pass. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon. Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Member Washburn, aye. Member Knebber.
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams, aye. Member Craven.
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Chu.
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 7 ayes.
Thank you. Is Mr. Larkin here? Come on up. You have 5 minutes to present your case.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good morning, Jess. First of all, I believe I am entitled to the statements.
Yeah, you can speak into the microphone. Yeah.
I believe I am entitled to the statements and reports that were made in this matter. I believe that I am entitled to know the reasons why Mr. Storrs refused to release the maps to me and made me the first person in the history of the Department of Mapping to have to use the Sunshine Ordinance to get a copy of the map. I do not believe that the documents I am asking for are protected under 6254. I'm not requesting home addresses, social security numbers, medical files. The DPW also acknowledged in an immediate disclosure request that they did not contact the city attorney in making a determination if these documents are protected. I believe also that in the training seminars that the city attorney gives, that several premises were not followed. I don't believe the DPW, or during those seminars, it says you're supposed to get guidance before problems arises. Disclosure is a rule without the exception. You have to disclose what is not exempt. I asked for redacted versions of these reports, and they refused to give me the redacted versions. The city attorney also encourages policy body members and department personnel to contact the city attorney in advance whenever they have questions. The DPW, as far as I know, has not. And I find it hard to believe that even if personal information was included in these documents, that I couldn't have gotten a redacted version of them. The burden of establishing an exemption from disclosure is borne by the DPW, not me. The DPW in the past has refused to step in when matters like this has happened in the past and take action. And the department as large as the DPW should have an investigation of misconduct conducted by an independent third party, not by the employer's immediate supervisor who has a vested interest in the outcome of the matter. By allowing this investigation of misconduct to go without independent viewing solely based on the word of this employee's immediate supervisor, I believe is in direct violation of Sunshine Ordinance. The investigation also leaves me doubts that statements were taken, reports were made, and bias may have played a part in determining both the outcome of the investigation and the decision not to release the documents. And for me personally, since I was there when this happened, for them to find that Mr. Storrs did nothing wrong, I find ridiculous.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous.
No, that's great. That's perfect. Are there other parties to the complainant wishing to present facts and evidence? Is there a representative from the city?
Madam Chair, I received a letter from the respondent saying that he will be out of the city for today's meeting.
Right. So, Mr. Larkin, we have some options here. We can, yeah, please. We can continue to go based on the information that's been provided to us and discuss the matter and come to a conclusion, or we can wait and have the representative from DPW attend.
I would prefer to get this matter over with and reach a final decision.
Okay.
Either way.
Great. I want to see if any of my colleagues have any concerns about that.
No concerns.
Okay. We'll proceed then. Given that there's no one from the city here, the matter is now with the task force for discussion and questions. Please. Well, I believe our colleague, the Vice Chair Craven, sent out some case law that is applicable here, and if you would mind summarizing, we appreciate it.
Well, I do wish someone from the department was here because there are some ambiguities. I mean, I think there has been a violation here under my interpretation of the law, but I would like some clarity on what was actually withheld. On page 124 of the packet, there are multiple emails with response to this complaint, so it's hard to figure out, to get to the bottom of what was going on. But I believe on 124, that's where Frank Lee indicates what was actually withheld, which are the names of the people interviewed, their statements, and the report. In addition to these documents, a preliminary draft of the report was also withheld. And then they seem to indicate that the report itself was actually conveyed to the complainant in an email. So from what I can gather, what has been withheld are the names of the people interviewed, their statements, and the preliminary draft. With respect to a preliminary draft, the Sunshine Ordinance is different than California law. Under the Sunshine Ordinance, to the extent a preliminary draft exists, it should be released. There is no exemption as compared to the California CPRA, which has a broader exemption for pre-decisional drafts. So that document, in my view, should have been released. With respect to the names of the people interviewed, their statements, the case law relied upon by the department is the wrong standard. The case law the department relied upon was the provision in the ordinance which goes into, if you will, or discusses some case law with respect to production of personnel information like an employee investigation, and provides that where there's been a substantiated case of misconduct, the investigative materials and the report should be produced. Subsequent to Prop G being adopted, there was a case which I had the administrator circulate, the Bakersfield case, which actually sets a more lenient standard for release. And essentially, unless the complaint itself against the public employee was groundless, as long as there was at least some basis, a well-founded basis for the complaint itself, then all subsequent documents regarding the investigation and the final report should in fact be released and are in fact public records. Therefore, in my view, the witness statements should have been produced to the complainant under that standard and the correct standard. And with respect to the names of the witnesses, and this is where Mr. Lee's input would be particularly relevant, in my view, unless there is a danger of retribution or some kind of whistleblower status that the witnesses could claim, i.e. they don't want to be identified because they're in fear of some kind of retaliation within the department or from someone else, in that basis, my view is that the names potentially could be withheld. But in absence of that assertion, which I don't see anywhere in the records, the wholesale withholding of that information, I believe, was improper here. So I would be inclined to find a violation as to all of those documents, and at the right time, I'll make that motion.
I just wanted to agree with with Member Craven, I'm looking at that they're citing 67.1G, which doesn't really seem to prove their position at all. In fact, it says that when a person or entity is before a policy body, that person and the public has a right to an open and public process. It does say in the first sentence it talks about privacy, but I agree that their citation does not really prove their case. And I think that I've read the case that Ms. Craven provided to us, and I think that it certainly is determinative.
Any other comments?
I wanted to say that I also reviewed the case when I received it this afternoon, and it does seem pretty clear.
Any other comments?
I would like to say, since there is not a representative at all, when did you receive this, Chris? On the 24th, that no one could be here to represent the department?
Through the chair, yes, I received it on the 24th.
So therefore, there was no other person there.
This is a response, through the chair, this is a response to the meeting reminder that I sent. It's an automatic email.
Okay, I understand that, but there's still no representative here.
Through the chair, no.
No. And I still have some concerns about representatives not being, being here. They could send someone as long as this case been going.
On this point?
Please. Go ahead.
I think this has happened before, and I think this is a little bit off topic, but what I'd like to ask the administrator is to make sure to follow up on these issues. I think the department representatives, this case was continued once by request of the complainant, which under our rules is the complainant's right. Where a department wants to continue a matter, that's essentially in the discretion of agreement by the complainant or a vote of the task force. And so I don't think Mr. Lee necessarily fully understood that, where Mr. Lee said, I would like the courtesy of a continuance because I will be out of town, I believe, or unavailable for today's date. I don't think we can just leave that hanging out there. I think we need to respond to them and say, because the complainant does not agree for a continuance, this matter will be heard by the task force. A representative should be sent. That representative may ask the task force to continue the matter and have a vote on it. The task force may, however, decide to proceed to give them notice. I've seen this come up again and again, and I think our administrator has to be more proactive to make sure departments understand that we're going to go forward unless there's a vote. And so someone should be here to respond. Sorry, that's a little off topic, but related to Ms. Williams.
Any other comments? Now we'll back. Mr. Larkin, you have another opportunity to address the body. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I believe the DPW does have another person that was able to respond, a Nathan Rodis, and I did notify the board of that, and because he was involved in this complaint from the beginning, at least through his emails, and I do not believe he was on vacation this time, and he could have shown up today. And also, as far as the report goes, the only thing as far as the report I got was basically an email saying they found nothing, Mr. Storrs did nothing wrong. I did not receive a report, but an email stating they found nothing wrong.
Thank you. The matters of the task force for a motion. Do you have a motion?
I would move to find a violation of 67.21 for failure to produce responsive documents, including witness statements, reports, and drafts regarding well-founded allegations of employee misconduct pursuant to the Sunshine Ordinance Sections 6724A2 and 6724C. Those documents should have been produced.
Second.
Could I just make a friendly amendment? I would add 67.21E, the last sentence of which reads, An authorized representative of the custodian of the public records requested shall attend any hearing and explain the basis for its decision to withhold.
I wouldn't accept that in this case simply because I think it was it was partially the fault of our administrator for failing to inform the complainant that this was going to go forward. So I feel like we dropped the ball partially on that, so I wouldn't include that.
Well, I would say that Barbara Moy, the manager of the Bureau of Mapping, is very familiar with this case, so she could have come. So I would.
But we didn't say to them.
We didn't say to them that we were going to go forward. I think they believed we were going to continue.
Chris, did we respond to them?
Through the chair, I spoke to Barbara Moy.
And what did you
I also spoke to Frank, Mr. Lee.
And what did you tell
And
them?
this was way before I also explained to Mr. Lee that according to the email I sent Chair Chu this afternoon, I laid out what the scenarios were. And he said he wanted to represent the department.
Right, and
But unfortunately, he says if he wants to, if the department would like, if the task force would like to call a special meeting, he's ready to come. But this particular time and day, he is not available. That is what he said.
Right, and did you warn him that we were going to go forward with this?
I told him yes. I told Miss Moy that also.
Okay, well then I will accept that. Then I will accept the
Yeah,
amendment.
because if he couldn't make it, he should have sent somebody else. Okay.
So
I'll second the motion.
So the motion is
Has it
67.21
been
in
seconded?
general?
67.21 for failure to produce documents, and then
And 67.24.
based on 6724A2, 6724C, as well as a violation of 6721E for failure to send an authorized
Send a
representative
representative.
to the hearing.
Okay.
Second accepts.
Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, let's call the vote.
On the motion, Member Craven?
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Nee?
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon?
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Member Washburn, aye. Member Knebber?
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson? Member Johnson absent. Member Chan? Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams?
Aye.
Member Williams, aye. Member Chu?
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes.
Thank you. This item should be referred to the Compliance and Amendments Committee. And Chris, please.
Item number 4 is the determination of jurisdiction on complaint filed by Dr. Ahimsa Samchai against the Board of Supervisors for not providing public notice, agendas, and public comment opportunities during the supervisors' meetings with elected officials in Washington, D.C.
Members, I move that we find jurisdiction on this item.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this matter? Seeing none, can we call the question?
On the motion, Member Craven?
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Nee?
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon?
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Member Washburn, aye. Member Knebber?
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson? Member Johnson absent. Member Chan? Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams?
Aye.
Member Williams, aye. Member Chu?
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes.
Great. Dr. Simchai? You have 5 minutes.
Per the very, very widely circulated description of the activities of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, commissions, boards, councils, and other agencies of the city and county exist to conduct the people's business. This ordinance will assure that their deliberations are conducted before the people and that city operations are open to the people's review. Also, under the Sunshine Ordinance, the attendance of a majority of the members of a policy body at a regional, statewide, or national conference or at a meeting organized to address a topic of local community concern and open to the public, provided that a majority of the members refrains from using the occasion to collectively discuss the topic of the gathering or any other business within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city, which is saying that as long as 6 members, a majority vote of the Board of Supervisors, attended meetings in Washington, D.C. during the period of March 9th through the 12th, As long as these meetings were open, presumably there was an opportunity for public comment, and the 6 members did not use the opportunity to make decisions about city policy or to engage in conversations outside of standard agendas and itineraries that were published, that it would not constitute a meeting. And I have copious information to support that there were discussions on topics outside of the itineraries that the supervisors were given on matters that did not pertain to the agenda. There were lobbying opportunities. There were actual published documents that suggested that as an outcome of the meetings, the members of the Board of Supervisors would implement an ordinance to develop a downtown community benefit district, and I will leave this with you. Additionally, the topic of the conveyance of Treasure Island, which was not on any agenda published, was a priority of the mayor's office, and in a document that at least one of the members received, that was identified as a key issue. And in the Examiner, upon return on March the 15th, Stephen Falk, the president of the chamber, identified that the conveyance of Treasure Island was discussed by the supervisors in meetings with Feinstein, Boxer, Pelosi, and Congressional Representative Jackie Spears. San Francisco supervisors discussed not only economic stimulus funds, but the conveyance of Treasure Island, and there are other issues that were discussed. So it concerns me. It concerns me that 6 members, a majority vote of the Board of Supervisors, went to Washington, D.C. on short notice. There was a major one meeting of the full board that was canceled, 2 subcommittees that were canceled. This meeting went out to the 50 delegates with a deadline for response by February the 6th. It appears from the email that I have from Eric Marr that he made a decision to attend on March the 3rd, and by March the 6th, that Friday, the 6-member delegation was organized. So clearly there was a short turnaround on the decision for the supervisors to attend. The city trip sponsors also had the opportunity for $10,000 to be listed as official sponsors and to give each of the members of the delegation a gift. And so all of the members of the delegation did receive gifts, and presumably these gifts were reported to ethics. All of the supervisors who attended gave me the same basic itinerary, except for Supervisor Maxwell, whose submissions were very sparse. Supervisor Maxwell gave me no information about her travel. This is what Supervisor Maxwell gave me. This is what Supervisor Marr and Supervisor Dufty gave me. So there was a lot of redundancy that I got from 5 members. Supervisor Maxwell did not give me the basic itinerary that for the city trip. So I think that, from the standpoint of my request for information regarding travel, gifts, and lobbying opportunities were very reasonable request. Supervisor Maxwell, her office asked for a 24-day delay under the under the Public Records Act, and then gave me information that was not sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other parties of the complainant wishing to present facts and evidence? Seeing none, is a representative from the city? You have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Task Force members. Frank Darby, Officer of the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, Office of the Clerk of the Board, with regard to this matter. As Dr. Sumchai did indicate, the board members did attend a conference that was held in Washington, D.C., scheduled March 8 through March 11. However, this was not an official Board of Supervisors organized trip or meeting. The board members were individually invited to a conference, and with the entire trip being paid for by the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce as part of a city trip, D.C., and it wasn't indicated whether who would take use of those funds to attend that meeting, but there was a majority of the board of supervisors who attended the meeting, or the conference rather, not meeting, the conference in Washington, D.C. And in regards to that, I have had an opportunity to contact all of the supervisors with regard to that meeting, and as Dr. Sumchai indicated, there were several documents based on her request that was provided to her, both the agenda and other items that, based on what took place. And in accordance with the Ralph Brown Act, the Sunshine Ordinance, there's nothing that prohibits a majority of the Board of Supervisors from attending a conference, which is what they did. They have provided me no indication or even stated that they had any special meeting that's pertaining to city business that was any way not associated with that conference. And so with regard to that, I have no information to support that there was any violation at all. And so with that, I have no further information to provide for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Darby.
It's
not time. Okay.
Not yet. Soon. Other parties. Is there anyone else from the city that would like to respond? The matter is now with the task force for discussion and questions.
Okay. Mr. Darby, would you come back up, please? The meeting that was canceled, was it made notification to the public? That was the public notified that there would be the majority of the Board of Supervisors going to a conference or a meeting or whatever?
There was a cancellation notice that was posted indicating that the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors was being canceled. I'm not certain whether it was specific as to saying why it was canceled, but there was a public notice indicating that the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors was being canceled.
And where was that publicized, and how long a time?
Okay, I know.
What time length?
It was posted on the website. It was posted outside of the Board of Supervisors' office. The time frame, I know it was outside of the 72 hour, outside of the 72 hour notice, so there was plenty of notice to meet the requirements so far as the 72 hour notice was definite, but I'm not sure the exact date. I believe it was the prior week is normally when the posting goes forward.
Okay, for transparency's sake, I do have some concerns about these gifts that was. Why was it imparting for if they were doing a public duty and a service going and being paid for by the Chamber of Commerce? Why was it necessary for them to receive a gift? And what was the gift?
What was the gift?
What was the gift?
Well, and let me read what the letter from the Chamber of Commerce says, the paragraph that talks about what was provided. The San Francisco Chamber of Commerce is pleased to make an in-kind contribution in the amount of $10,650 to the City and County of San Francisco to cover the cost of airfare accommodations and conference fees for 8 city officials / employees to join the Chamber's delegation to Washington, D.C. as part of the City Trip D.C., March 8 through 11, 2008. The city, in its sole discretion, shall determine the specific official or employee who shall use this gift.
Thank you.
Did they also get a biker bag?
A whom?
A bike messenger bag? I happen to have seen them delivered.
I'm not certain.
Okay, just to let you know.
I was not informed.
I actually saw them delivered.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I can't say that they did or didn't.
As long as we're talking about this is not the question I wanted to ask, but you said $650?
No, $10,650 to send 8 individuals.
Divided 8 ways.
Yes.
Whatever that.
And
whatever
it wasn't. It was for the city to determine who those 8 individuals would be.
But it did say in the on page, in the discussion of this, that they were going to report it on their Form 700. So
Obviously, yes.
is the city's, what is the city's position? That's sufficient? Or?
That's normally with any situation like that, it would be put on the Form 700, yes.
Okay. So the other question I had, and I may have missed it in your initial presentation, what other business did they conduct while they were there, aside from going to the conference?
Other than the conference, that's all I'm aware of. I've been informed of was the conference. Now, what they did outside the conference, I have no knowledge. What tent trips they did, whether they went, I'm not aware of any of that, and I was not informed. I did ask if there was any city business conducted. Then that's received none.
And they said no.
That's the information I provide. So
okay, and I have a final question, which may even be for Ernie Lorente, but John Lau, Sylvie Maxwell's aide, responded that they were going to take a 24-day extension because what was requested was voluminous. Was that a typo? Was it supposed to be a 14-day extension? I had never heard of a 24-day extension. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? It's on page 142. Is it 142? Yeah. It's on page 142, last paragraph. This is a letter to Ms. Dr. Sumchai from John Lau, who is Sophie Maxwell's aide, and he says, we are invoking an extension of not more than 24 days to respond. Does anybody know if that was a typo or if they just invoked 20? I've never heard of a 24-day. I've heard of 12. I've heard of 14 days, and I've heard of 10 days. Does anybody know the answer?
No.
Ernie, is there such a thing as 24-day extension?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Is anybody here from Supervisor Maxwell's office? No.
I have another question for Frank. And I'm sorry if I missed this somewhere, but is there a specific set of definitions that we're working with as far as what constitutes a meeting and what constitutes a conference and the definition of this conference?
Yes, there is. Under the definitions under Section 67.3 of the Sunshine Ordinance, there's definitions for a meeting. And particularly subsection B4B, which means a meeting shall not include any of the following. And subsection B says the attendance of a majority of the members of a policy body at a regional, statewide, or national conference or at a meeting organized to address a topic of local community concern and open to the public, provided that a majority of the members refrains from using the occasion to collectively discuss the topic of the gathering or any other business within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. And then there's information also with regard to in the Ralph Brown Act, Section 54-952-2, subsection C. C2, which also says what will not constitute a meeting, and it's pretty similar to what's mentioned in the Sunshine Ordinance.
If I may, my instructional memo covers this area, and I do have specific sections cited in it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, Ernie, can you give us an idea of what would not have been allowed? Like if they all went out, 6 of them went out to dinner and were just chatting about their job?
Well, again, if the evidence is produced that there was such a meeting of 6 members of the Board of Supervisors meeting with let's suppose, Senator Feinstein, and talking about potential monies that could be going to the city and talking about what the programs would be, that would be a meeting. That would be discussion city business. If they were meeting with another group of, let's suppose, the Democratic Congressional Caucus, they met with them as a body saying that we represent the city and have these ideas that we want you to address, that would be, I would consider a meeting. What we need to have, and what I think you would need for you to know, is what Dr. Sumchai says she has, right, which you haven't seen, which is materials that would justify, in her opinion, that there was such meetings. We haven't seen that. That's not part of your agenda packet, and if you want to make that determination, I think you should have the evidence.
Right. Well, from what I understand, what Frank is attesting to is that during the conference, during the day, they did not have that kind of meeting. from what I understand what you're saying, Frank, you're not saying that it never happened. You're just saying during the conference, during the day, it did not happen.
Yeah, what I'm saying is based on the conference agenda, they just followed the conference agenda as it was outlined. I'm not aware of any other meetings with, any senators and the congressmen members.
Right.
I'm not aware of any of that information.
But it could have happened.
I mean, anything's possible, but I have no evidence that, nor was I provided information or received information from any of the board members to state that did happen.
Right. So I'm a little disappointed that we don't have people here that can actually say that didn't happen. Because you actually are saying that it could have happened, but you just don't know.
Well, what I'm saying,
I'd say it could have happened, but I just don't know.
None of the board. I've asked the board meetings members if there were. And I've asked each office if there was any meetings like that took place. They all said no.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm here saying that they said there was no meetings of that nature that took place.
Okay. Thank you. Please.
So I have following up on what Ernie was saying, and I thought of this too. I'd like to ask Dr. Sumchai to you mentioned when you were in your remarks that you had copious evidence of meetings that occurred with the 6 members conducting our city's business. So could you produce these for us?
Let me also say I'm not really comfortable with Mr. Darby representing the board. It just feels like there's something here that's kind of a disconnect. I would expect him to be in more of a neutral
There was just a
position
question,
on this
ma'am.
matter.
Just answer the question.
There was an overview that at least 5 members of the Board of Supervisors attended on the final day of the conference. This is the document. This was not on the original itinerary, and it talks about everything that they discussed, and it appears to be a document from infrastructure, clean downtown, restrictions on business travel. It appears to be the Chamber's recommendations to the board about what they wanted. And so this overview meeting that was held on Wednesday the 11th, let's see, at wrap-up discussion 1 to 2 p.m.
Okay.
Steve Falk. So this is all they talked about, and it's voluminous. These were issues that were not on the original itinerary. You can have this. This is
Dr.
an
Simchai?
email from. Do you want me to give you
Dr.
the
Simchai?
evidence? Yeah.
I think that we have 2 ways to proceed at this point. Since we haven't looked at those documents and haven't gone through them, and believe me, I think that we'd all like to go through them.
Okay.
We can either defer this to next month and have an opportunity for you to submit some more documents. We can all look at them, and then we can discuss it further in detail. Or we can move forward based on what we have in our packet. But again, as our attorney has given us advice, it's not conclusive enough for it to head where you'd like us to. So those are the options on the table.
Okay, that's fine. There were some other issues of discussion that I want an opportunity to just clarify. The sponsorship opportunity says that as part of the $10,000, they can have a gift. All of the supervisors received a gift packet, so I don't want there to be confusion about that.
So we have 2 options on our table now
for an ordinance,
and that's what we're going to need to discuss. Either we're going to get more information and discuss it again next month, or we're going to go forward based on exactly what we have right now.
All right.
So what is your feeling on which way you'd like to proceed?
My time's really valuable. I bill at about $150 an hour, so I welcome the opportunity to come back to you. But in my estimation, I think that there is a great deal of evidence to support that this was a meeting, that there was business conducted, there were objectives.
Well, Dr. Simchai, you haven't provided that to us. You need to provide us the evidence so we can review it. That is the problem.
All right.
Okay. So I think that's where we'll go. Is that we're going to discuss it here, probably move it to next month, and you'll have the opportunity to bring that back in, and we'll get you at the top of the agenda next month.
So I can give this to you now, at least this information?
Not now, but to our administrator,
You would
and as
want
much
it
as you have.
5 days in advance, you provide the information with clarity about what it is, what each piece of information is, where you got it, and what you believe it states. So if you can do a cover letter and here's all the supporting evidence, that will help us.
I just wanted to clarify, Dr. Simchai, the documents that you're going to provide us that as proof, that's what you derived from your sunshine request? You remember you made a request and John
Yes.
Lau said he would get back to you in 24 days?
Presumably Mr. Darby would have the same information that I have.
You made the sunshine request of the Maxwell office?
I made it of all of the supervisors and the clerk.
Okay, but John Lau said they would take 24 days. Did that office take 24 days to get back to you? Do you remember?
It was less than 24 days, but the information I got was POS, and it was not what I requested.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking is that I'm chair of the Education and Outreach Committee, and if a supervisor's aide really does think they have a right to take 24 days, we should tell them they have 14 days. It might have been a typo. So how are we going to handle that? Do you want us to take it up, or do you want to write a letter to them?
No, I think you can deal with it directly in the EOT.
Put it on our agenda?
Yeah.
Would you put on that?
Or you could even just call the office and say, was this a typo?
Right.
It's up to you.
Or you could.
So,
or Chris could.
okay.
Could you find out, Chris, if that was a typo? And if it wasn't, would you put it on the agenda of the Education and Outreach Committee? Thank you.
Thank you. Member Nee?
Could I just make one comment? The key here is that it's 6 members that did whatever business was discussed. 5 members could do whatever they want. 4, 3 can do whatever they want.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Madam Chair, I do have a question for Mr. Darby. Mr. Darby, you said that the chamber gave $10,650 to send 8 individuals, and who those individuals were to be decided by the city. Do you know who within the city made that decision?
Well, this letter was sent to President Chu, so I'm not sure exactly who was all involved in making this decision. I'm sure President Chu was involved so far as the board members were concerned. Now, I'm not aware of the other 2 individuals who may have also went on that trip who are not board members.
I think it is relevant. I'm not sure you can answer this question, but I think it is relevant to know whether each of the 6 supervisors knew that, that what would constitute a quorum would be present at whatever proceedings took place in Washington.
I can't answer that question, whether they knew or didn't know whether that would be the case.
Could you possibly?
But I can inquire.
Could you possibly find that out by the next month when we convene?
Yes.
Assuming if anyone read the letter, it said,
Right. Or the newspaper.
It seemed to indicate that more than at least 6 supervisors would be going, but that's not a violation.
Right. Just going is not a
assuming that
violation.
they're going to a conference.
Right.
Not discussing.
Right.
Right. Are you comfortable with continuing this to next month?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. So I guess I'd like to make a motion to continue this item to next month.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Good afternoon, Thomas Piccarello, resident in the city, county of San Francisco. It seems a clear and blatant violation of the Sunshine Ordinance to have 6 supervisors go to Washington, D.C. and cancel the Board of Supervisors meeting. And it also troubles me that Mr. Darby, who was supposed to enforce the Sunshine Ordinance, is now taking the position of the respondent. I don't understand that. It seems to me that the questions that we're asking Mr. Darby ought to be tendered to the Board of Supervisors as to what was discussed in Washington, D.C. And, you can't violate the Sunshine Ordinance by characterizing a meeting by calling it a conference. So I think what you need to find out is what did the Board of Supervisors, the 6 of them, do in Washington, D.C.? You shouldn't rely on Mr. Darby to speak for them. You should compel them to answer your questions if you're serious about enforcing the Sunshine Ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Chris, can you take the roll on the question? continuing?
On the motion to continue to next month, Member Craven?
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Nee?
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon?
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Member Washburn, aye. Member Knepper?
Aye.
Member Knepper, aye. Member Johnson? Member Johnson absent. Member Chan? Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams?
Aye.
Member Williams, aye. Member Chu?
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes.
You read number 6, please.
Item number 6 is the determination of jurisdiction on complaint filed by Raymond Banks against the San Francisco HIV Health Services Planning Council for failure to provide contract information.
Is Mr. Banks here? Yes. Hi. You have 5 minutes.
Well,
How you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Banks. 1 second.
Maybe we should vote on
Jurisdiction first. Sorry.
I move that we find jurisdiction, members.
Second.
Is there public comment on jurisdiction? Can we call do the roll on jurisdiction, please?
On jurisdiction, Member Craven. Aye. Member Craven, aye. Member Nee?
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon? Aye. Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn?
Aye.
Member Washburn, aye. Member Knepper?
Aye.
Member Knepper, aye. Member Johnson? Member Johnson absent. Member Chan? Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams?
Aye.
Member Williams, aye. Member Chu?
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes.
Thank you. Mr. Banks. Sorry. You still have 5 minutes.
How you doing? My name is Raymond Banks, and I was here 2 weeks ago to discuss the fact whether the Sunshine Task Force has jurisdiction over my complaint. Based upon what I read from the city attorney's office, he concurred with me that the Sunshine Task Force did have jurisdiction. Furthermore, since that time, I haven't received any information that I requested. I did receive some contracts, but I also wanted to receive some other information, which I really felt was a little bit more important. Unfortunately, I didn't forward the information to Chris in a timely fashion, and I had some additional requests that I wanted to make. For instance, they hired the contractor, Veronica Neal, and in her report to the council support, which is Shanti, or the custodian of records, they alluded to mental health issues as contributing to the problem. When I asked what these were, she referred me to the custodian of record. There have been quite a few allegations and claims made against me. When I asked for information to substantiate these claims, I've run across a brick wall. Furthermore, the co-chairs of the council submitted in my opinion, an illegal and covert letter to the mayor asking for my removal. The mayor refused to sign off on it. So I also asked in this amended complaint, would they provide, I think it's next to the last paragraph, that they say to the mayor, we have evidence and we can provide evidence and information upon the mayor's request. So when I requested that they provide me the information, I was told that they would not provide me the information. They would only provide the information if the membership committee asked for the information. I feel that all of these requests are in violation of Sunshine. I think there's some other issues. As you see in my amended complaint, I also talked about the right to free speech. I think her name is Alita Van Runkel. And the council sent a question over to ask them whether or not a council member is entitled to free speech. She responded with 67.17, which is public comment by members of policy bodies. So based upon her opinion, I believe that Sunshine has jurisdiction. And just more of a side question, well, I'll wait for that. I'd just like to get the information. I'd like to get the dates, times, the interviews, the questions asked, witnesses, what was said, who said what. I believe, what's going on here is that you have people that have been able to submit information against me, and I haven't had the opportunity to respond. I mean, this is an unhealthy precedent. I think it sort of turns back the clock on civil rights. I mentioned that before, especially the right of free speech. I listened to my predecessors, and I'm not as astute as to what the different areas of Sunshine are. But I would like to say that the people that are the custodian of the record have a vested interest in the fact that the co-chairs hired this individual. The co-chairs who I had the complaint against. And the complaint I had against before was also a member of the council support in regards to gaining information. In the mayor's letter, they said they've compiled 15 of my requests. I've gotten pretty much zero until I went to the AIDS office, and the AIDS office had their people provide me copies of the contract. So I believe that there's a conflict of interest, and people just do not want to cooperate, possibly because they might get sued. I think, whenever you have some sort of wrongdoing, people are going to try to cover their tracks. So, is my time up?
It'll beep when your time's up.
Okay. So I also would like the Sunshine to look at the fact that in item number 2, I was deprived of my right to free speech when I was punished for using the term racist when characterizing the actions of a former employee from council support who was also Mark Molnar's co-worker. I put Molnar in there. The individual that I was talking to was another African American. By being punished for using the term racist, the co-chairs are turning back the clock on civil rights that my ancestors have fought and died for. Additionally, this action fosters a safe haven for racism and creates a hostile environment for advocating for underserved populations and people of color with HIV and AIDS. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. Are there other parties of the complainant wishing to present facts and evidence? Seeing none, is there a representative from the city?
Hello, my name is Michelle Long. I'm the Director of HIV Health Services for the Department of Public Health. I am not listed as a complainant or a defendant in this matter. However, the contract for Planning Council support is a Department of Public Health contract that is held by my office. And so I'll introduce the co-chair of the Planning Council, and the contract is to support the activities of the HIV Health Services Planning Council.
Hi, Mark Molnar. I'm the co-chair of HIV Health Services Planning Council and also an employee of Shanti, which is the contractor for the administrative support contract. I can really only speak to the original complaint. It hasn't been determined yet if the Sunshine has jurisdiction over the amended complaint, which is a far larger document. In regards to the original complaint, as far as contracts and invoices relating to Veronica Neal, the person in that position of Director of Planning Council Support unfortunately went on a medical leave of absence beginning in April. When this issue came to my attention within that first week, Mr. Banks was provided the contracts and invoices that he requested within a week of that date. As far as I can ascertain, he has received all the documents so far that he's requested from that original, noted in the original complaints. The policy of Shanti, the contractor, as well as HIV Health Services Planning Council to provide documents in a timely way, so I can't excuse the actions of the Director of Planning Council Support currently on leave as far as not responding in a timely fashion. And since he's on a current medical leave of absence, he has been unresponsive to my request for information about why he did not even provide a timeline, let alone the documents.
Thank you. Is there other parties of the city that wish to respond? Okay. The matters of the task force. I have a couple of questions. When you heard this in the complaint committee, did you hear the amended complaint or the original complaint?
The amended. I believe it was. Wasn't it the amended?
I don't think so.
The original?
It was the original complaint dealing with the contract of the Veronica Neal. That was what I understood. I mean, he may have filed something new, which I'm not aware of, and I didn't address it in my memo.
Okay, so we're only going to talk about the original complaint.
On page 168,
hang on a second, Sue.
Other things he has asked for.
Sue, hang on a second.
I believe when we had in the complaint committee, we spent most of the time trying to figure out if this is because of the nature of the organization, and where it falls. I do believe that we found that it is a city body in name and shape. So and it was mostly, I think we discussed the original complaint, even though stuff was added after on. The complainant did mention some things in the complaint committee about the amended complaint, but we didn't have that in front of us, so we only judged on the original complaint.
Okay. And how did you find jurisdiction? Because all the members are appointed by the mayor?
No, because it is overseen by a city organization. It's a contract through a city organization.
Okay. Okay, sorry, Sue, was there?
Oh, I'm just trying to determine. It looks like there's two complaints. There's one for the contract information from Veronica Neal, is that her name? And then there's an earlier one on page 168 where he asks for a bunch of information, including minutes of the council. So I'm just wondering, what are we talking about here? Is it just the on 168 that it's a sunshine? It's a request that was made of the department in November of 2008 for contracts and for minutes and other things that originate from the council. And then he's made the request for the contract information that Veronica Neal has. So I'm not sure what we're doing.
Well, then there's additional, on page 191, Member Cawthon, there's additional information he's also requesting on 191 or additional allegations he's making. But I believe, as the complaint committee has already testified, the only thing we're dealing with today, at least the only thing that was before us at the complaint committee, was the contract information. Does that clarify it for you, Member Cawthon? Member Cawthon?
I'm looking at 191. I don't see anything on 191. You're saying page 191 of the packet?
Dear Sunshine, I wish to amend my complaint.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah. Anyway, but I think the major point here, Member Cawthon, is that the only thing that's at issue is the contract.
Okay. Is that right, Mr. Banks?
Well, Sue, I think it depends on what we decide that we're gonna hear.
Well, I mean, I'd like to know what the complaint committee. I'd like to know what the complaint committee did. What are we talking about?
Okay.
The contract.
Okay. So the matters of the task force. Sorry, is there other questions?
I just want to clarify. And the complaint committee, we were discussing the contract. Mr. Banks did mention the revised complaint, but that was not submitted to us and not before us. So that is a separate issue beyond what we can talk about here, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any questions about the actual substance of the complaint now that we figured out what we're talking about?
Is anybody here from the department? Nobody's here from the department?
We have
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Representatives, yes.
I just had a question for Michelle. Yeah. I read through the complaint, and there was somebody named Greg. First of all, there was Veronica, who's on maternity leave, and then there was somebody named Greg.
Yes.
Verbase or something, who has documents, but Greg's not there either. And then there's Hilda Jones, who also has information, but she's out of the office. So who was there to deal with this complaint, with this request?
Sure. The request was originally made by the complainant to the staff of the HIV Health Services Planning Council. My office holds a contract with a provider to provide the staff to the council. Mm-hmm. So Greg Zavraboff is the director of that support team. Mm-hmm. Hilda Jones is my employee who manages the contract with Shanti to provide the support to the Planning Council. You mentioned somebody else.
It was just name. Greg, Veronica, and Hilda.
And then Veronica is the subcontractor that Shanti hired to provide, to do a service for the Planning Council.
But I guess the point I'm making is that these three people were described to Mr. Banks as people who did have the information he sought, but that he couldn't deal with them because none of them were available.
So my office didn't have a copy of that subcontract at the time that he requested it, so we could not fulfill his request.
Right.
But the request wasn't originally made to us anyway. So the Planning Council support staff, who are managed by Shanti, made the contract with Veronica Neal and therefore should have had a copy of that contract, as should the contractor have had a copy of the contract.
So
Is
did
that
your
enough?
office, after all of this, did he get us the contract?
After all this, we did get a copy of the contract, and he did receive a copy of the contract through our office.
And how long did that take? About?
I really couldn't respond. We should have had a copy of the contract. The contractor was out of compliance by not giving us a copy of the subcontract.
Okay, that's just what I'm...
But I don't know how long it took him to get it.
Ma'am. So the subcontract, all these support team and the contractors you're all working with, have they all been trained on our open government laws?
Yes. They have all received copies of the document regarding Sunshine and the Brown Act. All that has been made available to the contractor.
Okay. Do you feel that they lived up to what they should have done?
I think they could have done that better. I think they clearly should have had a copy of that subcontract and made it available to whomever requested it, yes.
Who do you think should be held responsible for these support staff and contractors and subcontractors not performing in the way that they should have?
Right. It was the responsibility of Shanti, who holds the Planning Council support contract, who made the contract with Veronica Neal, to have a copy of the contract. So they should have had a copy. They should have been able to give it to whomever requested a copy. Okay, you're still looking confused.
Yeah,
What?
no, I'm just...
I know this is very, very convoluted. I'm sorry.
No, I think I see. The gentleman from Shanti, can I ask you a question? So you had said that once you found out that Mr. Banks had contacted you and said that he had still not gotten the contract, is that correct?
Email was forwarded to me, yes, during the first week of Greg's absence.
So I'm trying to get the dates down because this is convoluted. So he made the original request in November.
In November, yes.
And when did you get involved?
Beginning of April, first week.
Okay, so it's 6 months.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And I
so
definitely agree with that assessment.
whether he's on medical leave or not, it wasn't done within a timely fashion, and
No.
you acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I have to ask.
Do you know how many days would it need to be given in?
It depends on actually the council business at hand, which is cyclical. I would assume at the most it would be within 1 to 2 weeks where that could have been supplied. Usually we like to supply it within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, the Sunshine Ordinance actually has a different way of figuring that out.
Okay.
So I would really suggest you study the Sunshine Ordinance and our open government laws, because you're responsible for them. Members, anything else? Okay.
I also point out that the jurisdiction of Sunshine over the Planning Council is primarily around the administrative support contract, not the ongoing business of the council. And so that's often what the perspective, I guess, the council is coming from, and that's in some ways can confuse the issue.
Right.
But I do agree with your assessment, of course.
I would encourage them to try for a higher standard, to think that everything they do should be accountable to the people. Whether they want to mince how the law works and what their responsibilities are. I mean, they can play that game, but boy, it would feel better if they just, tried really hard. Thank you.
Can I just say one thing? Yeah. And I also wanted to ask Mr. Banks, could you just come up for 1 second? Also, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Molnar, also. Mr. Banks, when did you first ask for that contract? Do you recall?
There's been so many requests. I've asked them for information since November.
I don't mean the information about the minutes and stuff. I mean the information you're supposed to get from Veronica Neal about the contract. Do you have any idea? Because they're just saying it took around 6 months.
I hate to defend the opposition, but to be honest with you, when they testified in front of the membership committee somewhere around February 18th, when they mentioned something about Veronica, that's when I asked for the information. In fact, I got first of all, there's more than one contract. So
when did you get the contract you wanted?
I'm sorry, I can't remember the date, but
I mean, roughly.
Roughly around March or April.
Okay.
So it took a while, and I couldn't get it through Shanti. I had to get it through council support. I had to get it through numerous emails. So I would say maybe a couple of months.
Okay, thanks very much.
You know.
Thank you, Mr.
And,
Banks.
Okay.
Thank you. And I just want to say, Mr. Molnar, and Ms. Long, you say it is confusing. And as Chair Chu says that, if you're interested in some a chalk talk on the Sunshine Ordinance, there's a group in this body, which I chair, which is happy to provide that, because I think that just knowing what the time, when someone makes a request, what the time limit is to get back to them is really important, so that you don't have these long, it takes time from the department, it takes frustration for the complainant, then it comes here, that's a whole bunch of more work, so it's just better to know the rules and follow them. As Chair Chu
I agree, and I have to say that DPH actually has supplied those to this program, and they were responsibility of the person who is currently on a leave of absence.
Is that Mr. Lee?
That's Mr. Overboff.
That guy. Okay. All right.
Thank you. As part of our process, the respondent and the complainant, the city and the complainant now have an additional 3 minutes if there's anything additional you'd like to add. And Mr. Banks, we start with the city.
The only thing that I wanted to respond to was that Raymond did receive the contracts through HIV Health Services, but they were supplied to HIV Health Services by the contractor, Shanti.
The contract that the city holds for planning council support is monitored on an annual basis. I believe they are subject to monitoring within the next couple of months. The contract is also up for bid this year. And I think the council, which will be ongoing no matter what happens with the contract for support, would appreciate if there was someone available to do a presentation on Sunshine. They often get opinions and presentations around conflict of interest, that sort of thing. I think it would be very helpful to the council to get that kind of an update from whomever you would designate.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll give you my card before you leave, and we can exchange cards.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Banks, you have an additional 3 minutes.
3 minutes. First of all, I'd just like to read an email I wrote February 27th. As per Veronica's email, if you have any questions, then I'm to direct them to you. In her report, she states key stakeholders have identified numerous root causes for the current conflict situation, including but not limited to the following: aggressive behavior, disrespect, lack of understanding, mental health issues. The question I have is, what does she mean by mental health issues, and where she get this information? That's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for. People have made some egregious claims against me, and I'm asking them to substantiate them. They've sent this. I'll forward a copy of this other report. This is a secret report too, by the way, that wasn't even ratified by the full council for her to compile this report. These are just more of the without sounding too flamboyant, covert mechanizations of that's going on within the council. Did she get this information from my Shanti file? Prior to this, I was a client with Shanti. Where did that information come from? How did that get out? Was she referring to the co-chairs when she talked about mental health? Was she talking about Mark and Steve, or was she talking about me? Or who was she talking about? How did she arrive at the conclusion that mental health issues contributed to the conflict? What is her expertise? I think she has a PhD in education. Furthermore, Greg, can you give me a turnaround time for my previous request? A timely response would be appreciated. He responds, I'm about to leave town on 27th until Monday, and we'll discuss this more fully at that time as well. As mentioned in my previous email, look at if we had a contract with Veronica. That's February 27th. At this point, I would say that I would be shocked if any of the involved parties access your personal Shanti client file. I don't know exactly how best to confirm or deny this allegation, but I will certainly look into it. I haven't heard anything back. So this is a complex case. There's a whole lot of things going on, and I feel sorry that I've thrust so much information on you. And I also take responsibility for not including the second contract. And I like to say, when I got all the contracts, they had a cover sheet with the invoices, it didn't even match up to what the contract had. I didn't pursue it any further because I didn't want to go through another long, drawn-out battle in extracting information. But I can bring the information in. What they have on the cover sheet is the list of invoices, and what they actually have in the contract doesn't even add up. So there's some stuff missing. So and I would also encourage you guys to do a sunshine training for the council in regards to what constitutes seriata meetings and offline conversations and whether they are illegal. It's been stated in the testimony of the co-chairs that they had conversations about me offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. Please.
I just wanted to make a clarification for Mr. Banks in terms of whatever actions taken here and whatever future actions. There are a number of things that aren't within our jurisdiction. For example, the failure of the council to adhere to their bylaws. That's not something that we can deal with. Whether or not someone was improperly, maligned in a letter, that's not something we can deal with. Whether or not someone should or should not have been removed from position, that's not something we can deal with. Whether or not there's been compliance with a contract, that's not something we can deal with. The only things that we can deal with are failure to produce documents that exist. So, for example, if you ask someone, "Well, produce all the documents that substantiate your claim X," and they don't produce documents, there's two issues there. Either the documents don't exist, and there's nothing we can do about that. That's not within our jurisdiction. If the documents don't exist, we can't force them to create them. Or the documents have been withheld, and if it's the latter, we need proof that shows us why those documents have been withheld or not produced. So I just wanted to make that clear that our jurisdiction is limited. We cannot reverse decisions that bodies have been making in terms of their membership. That's simply not before us. We can't make any findings about that. What we can do is where there's been proof that documents have not been produced, or as here there's been evidence that a document was produced, but it was wholly outside the time frame for production. Those are the sorts of issues that we deal with. I just wanted to make that clear. Hopefully that will help.
Thank you. The matter is with the task force for motion and deliberation. I think I'd like to have a motion finding timeliness, 6721B.
I move that this is a violation of, I don't know which section, which 67.21, I don't know the letter, but
6721B.
is it, what is it?
B.
Okay. For failure to produce documents in a timely fashion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, can we call the question?
On the motion to find violation of 6721B, Member Craven.
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon.
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn.
Aye.
Member Washburn, aye. Member Knebber.
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams.
Aye.
Member Williams, aye. Member Chu.
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes.
Thank you. It is after 5 o'clock, and it's time for public comment for items not listed on the agenda. Is there any public comment?
I apologize if I'm slightly out of step here, but I just wanted to make one point of clarification. My name is Steve Manley, and I'm a co-chair of the HIV Health Services Planning Council. And I just wanted to assure the task force that we have internal procedures that deal with all of the other issues that Mr. Banks addressed and alluded to. And there is a process that is currently in play. In fact, there are 2 that are concurrently going on right now, and those are being dealt with. We have policies and procedures in place to deal with these things, and that is being handled internally. So I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any other additional public comment? Seeing none, can we call the next item, please?
The next item is item number 8, which is the determination of jurisdiction on complaint filed by Peter Green against the Department of Public Health for not releasing all communications, including hard copy and email regarding proposed EMS regulations.
Members, I move that we find jurisdiction on this item.
I second.
Is there public comment on jurisdiction? Seeing none, can you call the question, please?
On jurisdiction, Member Craven? Aye. Member Craven, aye. Member Nee?
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Carlton? Aye. Member Carlton, aye. Member Washburn? On jurisdiction.
Aye, but I have to leave now.
Member Washburn, aye. Member Caneva?
Aye.
Member Caneva, aye. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams?
Member Williams?
Member Williams, jurisdiction?
Member Williams, aye. Member Chu?
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes.
Great. Is Mr. Green here? Yes. Hi. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Peter Green. I'm a resident of the city and county of San Francisco. I vote here. I pay taxes here. Been a paramedic for 28 years. I have, I think, fairly extensive experience with the California Public Records Act. I started when I was 15. I grew up in Sunnyvale, and we advocated for a bicycle sub-element of their transportation plan. At age 18, I was elected by the city council on that, and we were the second city after Davis to put a bicycle sub-element together. It was very contentious. There was a lot of pulling of documents. I've spent 6 years on Santa Clara County's Emergency Medical Care Commission, had annual briefings by the county council there, and separate sessions when we had very delicate issues to deal with. So I think I'm fairly experienced. I was adding up last night. I've probably made over 200 informal requests, probably about 30. I've had one from Santa Clara County EMS that took about 2 weeks till county council intervened. I've had one other that's pending, which is the Costa Mesa School District. I've requested some information over some gay rights issues that came up down there recently. This fall, actually, let me back up. Our EMS agency, which is part of the health department, works under Title 22 as an agent of the State of California Emergency Medical Services Agency. And one of their areas is they regulate ambulance service. This fall, the state determined that they were in violation of something called the Bronson Act, which is a law passed in 1983 that states if you don't continue to operate in the same manner and scope as you did in 1981, that you must do a competitive bid process for ambulance services. For those that aren't aware, the fire department here is the primary 911 ambulance provider. Talking to a couple of experts, they estimate there's about $22 to $30 million in revenue for the fire department. The private ambulance companies are allowed to run emergency calls. It's probably another $20 million in revenue. The total system with the non-emergency calls is probably somewhere in the $60 to $80 million range. The majority of California counties put their system out to bid every 10 years, 8 to 10 years. So you're looking at, like here in San Francisco, roughly a $600 million contract. It's a large contract and should be subject to oversight. Our EMS agency, because of the finding of the state and also the current regulations are almost 30 years old, combine the ambulance regulations into some hospital receiving regulations into what they're proposing as the EMS regulations. So I made a request. I've actually made 4 sunshine requests. One of them about response times. The only response I got back was a staff member crying actually called me because she felt that I was picking on her. They used to post their response times on their EMS website till last October, and they're now stating they have a computer problem and can't post the response times.
I'm sorry, that's your 5 minutes.
Sorry.
You'll have another opportunity to speak in
Okay.
a little bit later in the process. Are there other parties of the complaint wishing to present facts and evidence?
Madam Chair, I think he has 2 more minutes.
He has 2 more minutes? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It seemed like
So,
a fast 5 minutes.
When I practiced last night, that's so. Anyway, on the 3rd of March, I'm sorry, the 5th of March, I made 2 separate requests. One, as a portion of Prop 218, agencies are required to justify their fees. This new regulation proposes new fees. Dr. Brown has over 10 years tenure here, and there's monthly meetings of the emergency medical physicians that oversee the agencies and their administrators, so he should be well aware of this function. What I've gotten in response to this is dozens of documents unrelated. Some of them are, they're all over the map, having to do with proposals to buy computers, whatever, but no cost study. As an example, Mountain Valley EMS, I called their office and they sent this to me within 5 minutes of calling them. Another request was for any communications from any interested people. And he then asked for a 14-day extension, citing the California Public Records Act, not Sunshine. And then on day 15, again produced a number of documents that were really unresponsive. That would have been on the 20th of March. Then on the 14th of April, lo and behold, one of his staff members sends out to an interest list 31 pages of PDF file of comments from people. So presumably I would have gotten some of those. Matter of fact, I know for a fact the one private company had sent in comments. So you've done something. I then got another response from him on the 3rd of April stating that since I'd complained to the Sunshine Commission, they had found more staff emails and would forward those to me, which he did. But it seems that this type of thing, again, keeping in mind it's potentially a $600 to $800 million contract, usually would get comments from 3 large national companies and local agencies.
Thank you. Is there someone from the city available to respond?
Madam Chair, the city did respond, and I have a copy for you made for you.
Okay. Did they say they were going to attend?
They said they have provided Mr. Green with all the documents that he needed. And they said they are very busy right now with the flu scare and wasn't able to attend the meeting.
I would just note that this is one of the thinnest packets I've seen. We don't have copies of the complainant's request in our packet, which usually is helpful because then we've seen what you've received. We don't have any email correspondence or cover letters saying here are documents you're being provided. And we don't have any response whatsoever from the department. So it's almost impossible for us to adjudicate this matter. We have nothing from either side.
I called through the chair, I called the department this morning, and Eileen Shields, the BIO, responded about 3:15 p.m. And I asked her to provide whatever she could provide, and that is what I made an emergency printout of, and I had time to make only one copy.
Okay, so there is something that's been provided.
That is correct, yes.
All right, and what is this that was provided at 3:15 today? Could you describe it?
It came in about 20 to 4 on their attendance and what they have provided to Mr. Green.
All right, so these are a series of emails, it looks like. I don't know if was a copy provided for Mr. Green?
No, I did not have time to make the copy, or copies.
Was the department informed that they should have had a response to us 5 days, business days prior to the hearing?
Yes, I informed them of that.
All right.
And they didn't respond, right? When you informed them of that, did you get a response from them? You informed them that they needed to do something, and they didn't get back to you,
They did not respond,
They didn't
no.
say we're not going to. They didn't say we're going to. They just didn't. You didn't hear from them.
They left me a message saying that all whatever Mr. Green had requested was provided.
So they did get back to you?
Yes.
Okay. It would have
But
been
then
good
again, following Member Craven's request to follow up to see who's coming, who's not coming, I called them this morning.
Right.
And they responded, but the time that she called was about 3:15, and I did ask them to send something, give us something, so that members could know what is happening, and that is the outcome of it.
Well, I know how hard you work, and I know how much you have to do. But sometimes, if they do respond, if it's at all timely and you can get it in the packet, it would give us the information that they indeed did respond or didn't, because I think some of us get a little annoyed if a department doesn't respond at all.
Well, they responded at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, right. So that's obviously impossible to, and you're passing that around right now?
Here.
I have only one copy. I do not have time to make multiple copies.
That's okay.
Right, it's here, and I can summarize. This is the email that's, I believe, John Brown sent to Fog City Pete.
Yes.
That's your email address. And what they say here is that, this is of April 3rd, I've been notified of your pending complaint that you did not receive all communications, including hard copy and email regarding the EMS regulations. We've spent a lot of staff hours reviewing, collecting documents, turned over 30 documents. I was confident we provided the information you were seeking. From the content of this complaint, evidently the information you're seeking is not found in the documents you provided. Therefore, if you're aware of any documents or communications that exist which are subject to disclosure that you have not received, please notify my office and we will seek to provide these to you. She also indicates that subsequently she asked staff to review once again the documentation that they had collected related to correspondence and emails to see if there were any that did not involve the city attorney's office. And she identified 8 messages that she exchanged with staff that were outside of the umbrella attorney-client privilege. She attached those emails to you on April 3rd, it looks like. And I'll pass this around for everyone else, and then hopefully it sounds like you've seen all of this.
That's what was sent, and I'm willing to have this moved on to next month.
Right.
My concern is that the staff isn't fully aware of Sunshine. I think there's clearly, I know you can't prove a negative, but there should be probably substantial communication between the fire department and EMS. And I'm concerned that they're CCing items to the city attorney and saying it's attorney-client privilege when it is not.
Right. Well, I think what would be helpful for us is for you to, if this matter is continued, for you to provide exactly that information in a cover letter or in a written response. Dear Sunshine, this is why we think documents have not been produced that I would expect to have been produced. When I asked other cities for this information, here's what they produced. San Francisco has not. I believe the attorney-client privilege is being asserted incorrectly because of X, Y, and Z. For example, see this email. And provide us with that kind of rationale behind why we should find a violation. We can't find a violation right now because we have no documents and no evidence about it. You need to provide us with the evidence as to why you believe there are additional documents there, and also a time frame if you want us to find the department in violation for failure to timely respond. We don't have that information because we don't know the dates of your initial requests. We don't have any of those in our packet.
Right. Those would have been mostly on the 3rd.
Right, but that's the kind of information that we need you to provide to us so that we can make those foundational determinations if there's been a violation. And I understand what you're saying. You can't always prove a negative. You can't prove that they haven't produced documents because you don't know what documents they have. But you can explain why you think those documents exist or why they should exist or why, in your experience, they do exist in other jurisdictions. And that is something that then we can base our decision on. So I would vote to, especially because the reason no one's here is because of the swine flu issue, that we continue this to next month, and hopefully the swine flu panic will have passed by then.
And nothing else has come up.
And nothing else will have come up.
And I could just add to what Member Craven said, that just let us know when you made your first request. Put it down and send it a little paragraph and send it to our administrator and say you first responded to that. You first asked them on such and such a date, and you finally got the document. You got a document on such and such a date, but you still believe there are documents because.
Okay, so.
Excuse me. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Do you have a copy where you initially started?
Yes, I do have it here with
you have
me.
The date on there?
It started, actually misstated, it started on the 5th of March.
Okay.
And I did receive a response the next day. It was titled an immediate disclosure request.
Okay. So those are the things that we need to see. So
I can put that together for you.
We need to
That'd be not a
see
problem.
those, whatever you have.
Okay, without objection, we'll continue this to next month? Next month.
Okay, we'll do it next month.
Thank you.
And please provide the information in advance of the date, so we'll have time to
I'll have it
read
to them
it.
before 5 days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We all can have it.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's move on to number 10, please.
Item number 10 is the determination of jurisdiction on complaint filed by Save Our Richmond Environment Organization against the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission for not providing requested information.
Members, before we hear this matter, I will need to recuse myself, as I am recused from all matters dealing with the PUC because my spouse works for the PUC. I believe we still have quorum.
Yes, we still have quorum.
We'll probably need to call the roll because of the numbers. And again, this is because I have a specific financial issue whereas I believe all the rest of my members here can be unbiased. So I believe Member Williams can be unbiased, but I would like to be recused.
Without objection?
Without objection.
Thank you.
You're recused.
Members, this item didn't come before the complaint committee, but nonetheless, I move that we find jurisdiction on this item.
Second.
Is there any public comment on jurisdiction? Can you call the question?
On jurisdiction, Member Craven recused. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cotton.
Aye.
Member Cotton, aye. Member Washburn. Member Washburn is excused. Member Knebber.
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams. Member Williams, aye. Member Chu.
Aye.
Member Chu, aye. Madam Chair, there are 6 ayes.
Thank you. Is there a representative from Save Our Richmond Environment here? There's not. Did we expect a representative?
I contacted them. I told them the meeting was being held. Nothing came back.
And he didn't get back?
Rather than giving an explanation, he filed 2 more complaints.
You did what? You filed more complaints?
More complaints.
Excellent. Okay. Is there someone from the city here to respond to the written complaint?
Good afternoon. Suzanne Gauthier, San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, although maybe that's probably not the best way to start. Thanks. Anyway, in my capacity with the Communications Division, I oversee folks whose role it is to reply and respond and comply with the Sunshine Ordinance. This complaint is a result of a major gap in our process. I was made aware of the request for information when the complaint came in. This happens. And lately it's been happening to us quite a bit. As I'm sure you're aware, our department has been before you several times in the last couple of months answering complaints of lateness. Very rarely are we totally not complying, but every now and then we are late, and we have been late, and we're working on not being as late as often. I do want to point out this particular request for information constituted a series of questions. It did not refer to a single or set of documents within which the answers to those questions would be found. We did create documents that did provide those answers, but we did have to create documents just to answer the questions contained in this request. There are some documents we're waiting to hear from the complainant if he still wants us to pursue them, some 2,000 backflow prevention connector test reports, which are not in our possession at this time, or 400 of them that were done by someone who is not an employee of the Public Utilities Commission. Without going into great detail on this one, there is a series of letters and correspondence between our general manager, the mayor's office, and the Save Our Richmond Environment on this very same matter, which is essentially the result of a clerical error. We put the wrong backflow preventer connector number on a report and directed it to the proper address, or something to that nature. As to the ongoing relationship with the Save Our Richmond Environment, as these files show, we have a series of requests for documents from them. We have complied with the request up to a most recent complaint, which I believe Mr. Rustin mentioned to me yesterday when we talked, or he left me a voicemail. There was an item requested on March 25th. We have not supplied the documents yet. I was not aware of the request until the complaint came in. There are 4 different fax numbers that Save Our Richmond Environment uses to contact the Public Utilities Commission. Today was the first time it actually came to the one in communications. So sometimes things just travel around a large bureaucracy and don't get to us in a timely fashion. We can and should be found in violation of the section that says we are not timely. And I have no further comments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your forthcoming.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I would wanted to commend Ms. Gautier and the department for creating documents, because you don't have to do that. And with all due respect to the SORE people, they did ask you. They made 17 different. They asked you for 17 different items within which there were lots of subtopics. So it was a very large request, and Well, we only have this, so I don't know what you provided and I don't know what the situation is. But I do commend people who do create documents, because you don't have to.
Thank you. May I just ask a question? When we are preparing to come before you, should we provide you in advance the documents that we have provided to the complainant in response to the request? It's not. I just haven't done that historically, and I don't know whether you need everything of everything.
Well, if you're going to come forward and say, yes, we were untimely, then, that providing us the documents is not going to prove that you were untimely,
I mean, we provided the documents. We provided them late. I can't. Right. That's not going to prove we weren't late. It will prove that we provided them.
So not necessarily.
Not necessarily for this case.
How you're defending yourself, Mr. Lorente. What is the PUC's requirement when they get a request for a document that doesn't exist, but the information does exist in various forms and different areas?
Well, there's a duty to give them advice as far as where they can have it. If the department doesn't have it in their possession, but there are other places to get it, they could refer them to where it's located. But I mean, again, this is very different in that there wasn't a specific request for documents. It was a series of questions about what was going on in the PUC, and I guess what could be done is a response saying, we have your request, you have your letter. Could you please tell us what documents you are looking for with respect to these questions, rather than, because you're right, they don't have an obligation to create records, but they do have an obligation to assist the requester in getting the records that the person is looking for. So, I mean, there could have been a dialogue with that regard. I don't know if there was or there wasn't, because when I wrote my memo, I didn't receive anything. I didn't know what was going on between the parties other than what Mr. Fatt had submitted.
Another comment, Ms. Gauthier. Regardless of where the request comes in, any employee of the PUC needs to know that they are responsible for public records, and whether they respond to it themselves or they get it to you, it needs to be done in a timely manner.
Granted, I'm just pointing out the 3 or 4 different fax machines just to let you know that we find them all over the place. We do have a fax machine. We do have an email address that says publicrecords@sfwater.org, dedicated to avoid having it come to my personal email or another person's personal email. So we have tried to minimize these misdirections of information or having things put in an internal mail system that goes, up and down from floor 1 to floor 11 before they figure out it started where it should have ended and it went traveling in the meanwhile, which can happen. And so we work with our staff to make sure that they know that internally. Again, I can't excuse we were late. I'm just setting the scene for you a bit. Also, in response to whether or not we produce documents, my kind of rule of thumb is if you can answer a question in less than 15 minutes by producing a short document, then that's an appropriate way to handle it. I wasn't asking anyone to rewrite Moby Dick. I mean, it was a very short thing, and they did it. It just that document did not exist until they were asked to answer the question.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Gauthier.
You're very welcome.
Can I make a comment? I mean, this is also, we didn't really have much in here, so when I was reading it the first time, I didn't know what's going on. But I would note that, a lot of this stuff could be documents that are there, but not all of it is. So it's great that she provided it, but I still think it's a little bit outside because we're not be able to judge on it if providing documents, even if she provided it's late. But I commend her for doing it, but I think it's kind of a little bit outside what we can do.
Okay. Thanks.
Actually, Madam Chair, I would like to reiterate that when they do see something come in, whoever sees something comes in and it's a request, as working for the city, it is also our responsibility to, if you don't have it or don't know it, to refer. So we should be in collaboration. All city departments or whatever should be in collaboration with each other. And I think on this training, Sue, we're going to have to really make that clear, because we're finding out that we just this is a good meeting because we're finding out when the people we find in violation for them or they still don't know what has happened, and we're finding out now that everybody is not getting sunshine. So we're coming along right with it. So we're going to set up an agenda of what departments that we really need to hit. So we need to be collaborating because we are all city working together. So if they don't have it, we commend her for doing what she did, but the city should be working together to refer people if they don't have that information, to tell them where they can go get the information. Why don't you try here? Just a simple sentence. That's courtesy.
Thank you.
And I had one thing to say. There's also a requirement, as I'm remembering the complaint process, that after a complaint is filed, the respondent has, 10 days to respond in writing? And that at that time they would let us know what was going on. And the complaint was, Ms. Gautier responded on April 4th, but I believe the original request was made on February 13th, and as she says, it had to go through a lot of faxes and so on and so forth. But I think when you don't get a response, maybe, I hate to add to your burden, but if you don't get a response to the complaint in 10 days, maybe you could send the department an email saying, the Sunshine Ordinance requires that you respond to this complaint in 10 days, and then put that in our packet. So they'll know, they'll be on notice what they're supposed to do.
Also, Mr. Goldman and who's ever on the complaint department, I think when you take it and you ask us to take jurisdiction, when they're making the complaint, tell them what they need to bring. Say, you need to have documents, when you go there. So, and this will save us a lot of time and a lot of, to run, and that'd be simple for us to say, when you go there, you're going to have these documents. They're going to be looking for that. And if you could just take the time out, we finding out people don't know that they are supposed to send documents in to Chris because we'd like to have them in the package.
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Actually, Ms. Gautier, you have another 3 minutes if there's anything additional you'd like to add. It's just part of our process.
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to make whatever clarifications are ongoing. I do want to clarify that the documents we did not have in possession are not those held by other city departments. This was a question about an outside contractor, and we wouldn't have documents with an outside contractor who is contracted with by an individual homeowner. So we work very cooperatively with other city departments, and hopefully we will continue to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matters with the task force for a motion.
I would move that we find a violation of 6721.B, timeliness.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, can we call the question?
On the motion, Member Craven. Member Craven recused. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon.
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn. Member Washburn excused. Member Knebber.
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams.
Aye.
Member Williams, aye. Member Chu.
Aye.
Member Chu, aye. Madam Chair, there are 6 ayes.
Thank you. Can you read number 12, please?
Item number 12 is determination of jurisdiction on complaint filed by Steve Lawrence against the SFPUC for violating 6721B.
And members, I move that we find jurisdiction on this item.
Second.
Any public comment on jurisdiction? Oh, I'm sorry. We also continue to recuse Member Craven because of the PUC issue.
PUC.
Is there any public comment on jurisdiction? Seeing none, can we call the question?
On jurisdiction, Member Craven recused. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon. Aye. Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn. Member Washburn excused. Member Knebber.
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams. Aye. Member Williams, aye. Member Chu.
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Is Mr. Lawrence here?
Madam Chair, Mr. Lawrence says in an email received last meeting, he says he will not attend.
Okay, thank you.
What he said was that had gotten what he wanted and he was not going to come, but he filed the complaint in any event.
Right, and I think in our packet he discusses not wishing to withdraw the case, even though he has gotten what he wanted. Oddly. So we're back to Ms. Gautier.
Or Ms. Gautier.
Hi. Hello again. Thank you. With all due respect. I appreciate Mr. Lawrence's concern that it be on the record that the PUC has been found in violation of 67.21 Section B, failure to respond in a timely fashion. I am unaware of the process by which you all would do that, whether your ongoing minutes would just reflect that we have been found in violation. The Public Utilities Commission accepts that finding and has no reason to contest it and is perfectly willing to be on record. Having produced the documents that he has requested, if not the entire letter of the law, I think we've complied with the spirit, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. The matters with the task force for discussion and questions. Anybody have any questions? Ms. Gautier, you have another 3 minutes. We have a very strict process. You have an ability to speak for 3 more minutes, but you do not need to.
I respectfully decline the opportunity.
Thank you. The matters of the task force for motion and deliberation.
Well, I would. I'm not sure if this was timely or not. I guess it wasn't. So I would move a violation of 67.21B, but I would also commend the PUC for creating documents and note that the complainant was satisfied with the response. And that could all go into an order of determination in response to Ms. Gautier's request.
I will second your motion.
Oh, thank you.
Is there any public comment on this matter?
Thank you so much. I'm sure you was here. Wonderful.
Can you call the question, please?
On the motion, Member Craven recused. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon.
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn excused. Member Knepper. Member Knepper, aye. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams. Member Williams, aye. Member Chu.
Aye.
Madam Chair, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Ms. Gautier, we will issue what we call an order of determination for both of these items, and they will be referred to the Education and Outreach and Training Committee to assist you in any kind of education that would help avoid these issues in the future. Thank you. Good evening. Can you call the next item, please?
Item 14 is the determination of jurisdiction on complaint filed by anonymous tenants against the Department of Building Inspection for violating 67.28 by charging $6.50 for a copy of a public record.
Members, this is clearly within our jurisdiction, and I move that we find so.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, can you call the question, please?
On jurisdiction, Member Craven.
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon.
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn. Member Washburn excused. Member Knepper.
Aye.
Member Knepper, aye. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams. Member Williams, aye. Member Chu.
Aye.
Member Chu, aye. Madam Chair, we have 7 ayes.
Thank you. Is anonymous tenants here? You have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, members. Anonymous tenants here. I first would like to point out that we filed 2 complaints against DBI. Both complaints are completely different, and neither complaint was about cost. We never brought up the issue as a complaint about cost. In addition, Mr. Strawn and Mr. Whiteside requested jurisdiction hearing on both complaints, and they did not attend either hearing, nor did they send a representative as required. This is another sunshine complaint, but we're not pushing the issues. In this complaint, 09018, our request was for a 1-page document. In response, Mr. Strawn demanded $6.50 and demanded us to fill out a records request form, and then he would provide this 1-page document in PDF format. Another violation, requesting us to fill out a form, but we're not pushing that issue. We felt this cost was high, so we requested to see the itemized cost analysis, how DBI arrived at this amount. This itemized cost analysis is a requirement of Sunshine Ordinance. We have made 4 Sunshine requests to Mr. Strawn for this analysis. However, Mr. Strawn refuses to provide us with the analysis. Mr. Strawn told the members his position was that this cost can be found in the matrix report, specifically under table 1A-L. There is no itemized cost analysis in this table or in the matrix report. We made a Sunshine request to Mr. Strawn to provide us an exact page in the matrix report that addresses this itemized cost analysis, but Mr. Strawn refuses to answer us. Another Sunshine violation. After 4 Sunshine requests for this analysis, and after several months after our initial complaint, Mr. Strawn, for the first time on April 6, 2009, mentions San Francisco Building Code, section 101A.11.1 through 101A.11.13, where Mr. Strawn says also specifies the department's established fees. We made a Sunshine request asking Mr. Strawn to email us the relevant section of the page of the matrix report and this San Francisco Building Code. Mr. Strawn again refuses to respond. We could not find this code online, and there isn't an itemized cost analysis in it. Otherwise, Mr. Strawn would have told the members months ago and produced it. There is no itemized cost. The bottom line is there's no itemized cost analysis prepared by DBI for the public to review. If there was, Mr. Strawn should have produced it instead of dancing around the matrix report, the table 1A-L, and the building code. Clearly, he is in violation of the Sunshine section 67.28. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone wishing to give facts and evidence in support of the complainant?
Evening. I'm in support of tenants. We asked for one document, and DBI demanded for $650 per page. And this is 650 times than the law permitted for 10 cents per page normally. And DBI used the paper flow and paper vision. Those software can easily scan and print and email those documents. I personally talked to the paper flow representative wholesaler. They said that easily can be done. I personally witnessed the staff at DBI on the ground floor at 1660 Mission. They just bring up the document on their computer and punch the key, print, in a couple of seconds the document will be there. But they still charge $650. I did pay that. Okay. And Sunshine Ordinance requested DBI posted the itemized cost analyst, but they did not. We repeatedly request them to provide the document to us. They cannot, or they refused it so far to provide it. We're asking you to ask the DBI to comply with the law. And the public should be able to obtain document and paying reasonable and documented cost. You cannot let them charge whatever they want when they ask them how you come up with the cost, and they just refuse. I still want to mention that twice the department challenging the jurisdiction, and twice they did not appear at the hearing. And the message is that send it to the public. When you file a claim against us, we will challenge this jurisdiction. We will not appear. And there's no consequence for us. The other people asked me to ask for themselves. I said, do you have problem with their Sunshine violation or violation of the law? Permit them to continue to practice people's business in this manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a representative from the city here? You have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm William Strawn. I'm the communications officer at the department. Thank you for the opportunity. I have to say that this matrix report has been online since April of last year. It's 40 pages. It contains a lot of cost analysis. The fundamental bottom line in it is to represent that the department has been investing in technology to try and make all records available in a digitized format for some time. We're actually in the middle of a 3-year process to complete the complete digitization that's going on. And I would say that what happens in the cost analysis of this, which we've tried to make clear to anonymous tenants, is that this becomes a computer-generated electrostatic type of document. It is not a typical paper document. We do not have the capacity of pressing a button. I actually went through an explanation of this that you probably remember at the end of January when we first started discussing some of this. And I would beg to differ with the anonymous tenant's interpretation. They did specifically raise this $6.50 minimum at that time, and Mr. Whiteside and I tried to explain at that time why on a cost recovery basis, we had amortized out and the minimum charge that was in our fee table, which is established by ordinance and passed by both the Board of Supervisors and the Mayor's Office, sets these fees so that we understand we aren't trying to make any kind of a profit. We obviously want to be responsive to the Sunshine Act. I feel we have been constantly responsive to this particular complainant. And I will say that out of 20,000 requests that we managed for responses in the last fiscal year and nearly 12,000 this year, we have had one complainant that wants it in this PDF format and is not willing to abide by the rules that apply to every other person going through the department's protocol for records. And I feel, and the director has made it very clear to me, that we are not going to try and retool the operations at DBI in order to satisfy one complainant's particular special treatment kind of request, which is how I'm afraid this seems to boil down. But my personal feeling is that I know I'm very responsible relative to responding to people. I'm not going to read and analyze a document for them when it's been available to them for more than a year. And I don't really feel that the department is under any obligation to do so.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the city that wishes to respond? Seeing none, the matters of the task force for discussion and questions. Ms. Craven.
I just have one question for Mr. Strom. I have the matrix report before me, and I've read it through at least once. And I'm having trouble finding where it's talking about either any analysis regarding the paper, let me get the phrase right, I guess it's paper flow system. I think there's two components, right? There's a paper flow system, and there's probably another piece of software that deals with paper vision for viewing. I don't see paper flow mentioned, and I don't see any itemized cost discussing providing copies of permitting documents. Maybe I've missed it. I could have missed it. I didn't see it though.
I think that some of the tables, such as on page 13, where we try to identify full cost recovery based on the division,
right,
is the one place, and obviously it does not itemize down to a particular piece of software. I have been told by the supervisor who manages our public records that paper vision is actually a relatively new service. I'm not even certain it was part of the matrix report when it was done. I did ask specifically, based on the complainant's most recent email, about a private commercial scanning organization saying that this type of software does enable immediate PDF capabilities. And while the supervisor, Ms. Herrera, told me that that is true, it does have that capability, we do not have that service, and we are not able to provide that
Certainly,
service.
this is a separate. I think that's the subject of the next matter. This matter deals solely with the issue of the charging of $6.50 for a printed copy from the paper flow system.
And as I understand it, the totality of the analysis for cost recovery, if you remember, DBI did no cost recovery analysis for the 16 years that it was created when it was separated from the
Right, and
Department
that
of Public
cost flow,
Works.
I don't mean to interrupt, but that cost flow recovery appropriately dealt with everything from permit applications, commercial remodels, home remodels, administrative staff fees, new construction. You're right. I mean, the department clearly needed to do a new study to make sure that it was capturing its costs for providing these services. But it does not, in my view, unfortunately, comply with the requirements of the Sunshine Ordinance, which requires the department to have an itemized cost report with respect to producing public records. And there is a line that says microfilm, and that is as close as I could get to any specific reference to the procedure by which the department has decided, and I don't think we have a qualm with, I mean, the department has decided to do this in a certain way. I don't have a qualm with that, but that's the only reference I can find to saving or producing documents the microfilm way, which I understand now is not done. Instead, it's scanned. So to me, I understand what you're saying. You've been operating, and I also, as I expressed at the last meeting, am concerned about imposing requirements on enterprise departments that are mandated to cover their costs by fee structures. But in order to comply with the Sunshine Ordinance, it seems that you at least should have done this itemized cost report with respect to producing copies for public records, and we haven't seen that.
Well, I can certainly take that message back to the director. I have obviously made it very clear to the department what the request was. The response that I have been given is that all of the numbers and analysis that is in this report illustrate what the department has been going through in order to provide cost recovery.
It certainly does. And I mean, and one of the problems is that it says, in certain things we're charging over and in certain things we're charging way under. But that, granted, that's a problem, but that doesn't, there's no identification of whether you're charging over or under for the production of public records. None at all.
I can only go on what I have been instructed,
Certainly.
and I can tell you that the director herself said that out of the administrative hourly rate of $104, this $6.50 minimum was amortized throughout the investment cost of being able to digitize and scan and make documents available as readily as possible.
So it sounds like there may be some other analysis that was done to reach that figure that hasn't been produced. James?
I mean, it's clear. I mean, what you need to do is have a cost analysis, and if it's broken down of somebody's job and it's 0.1% of their time to do this, or 0.1% of this software to do this to make one copy, I think to comply with Sunshine Ordinance, you should have something that you can give out to people to show why it costs this much. Like it's readily available.
And just to clarify, the personnel costs are not appropriately recoverable, but technology costs arguably are. So the cost
Right. No, we're fully aware of
Yeah.
that, and we're not
Yeah.
obviously trying to charge what we think is an unreasonable fee.
I understand that. I understand that you believe that you're justified because your costs are lower than Oakland and San Jose, but that still doesn't remove the requirement as imposed by our Sunshine Ordinance to provide the itemized cost backup.
Ms. Coffin?
And I just wanted to say a couple of things. I belong to a group called the Coalition for San Francisco Neighborhoods, and many of the people in the group do make sunshine requests of DBI and of the planning department. There's not a problem with planning, but it is burdensome to a private individual when they make a request for a lot of documents and they have heavy costs. So that's why I would say if the anonymous tenants have complained, I would say they're not the only people I have heard complain about the costs. And I just would like to point out section 67.21-1, which is about use and purchase of computer systems. And the ordinance, it says it's the policy of the city to buy computer technology that reduces the cost of public records management. And I heard Mr. Strawn say they're involved in a 3-year program, but 3 years is a long time. So that I wish it were possible for Mr. Whiteside to program and design the systems now to ensure economical public access, which is what this section requires. So I would hope you would take that back to Mr. Rowley as well.
Of course, I will.
Member Nee.
Mr. Rowley, I pronounced his name wrong.
This day, yes.
Member Nee.
Yes, I'm just wondering, Mr. Strawn, are you familiar with Section 67.28 of the ordinance, fees for duplication?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just recall for you that section, subparagraph D under that section very clearly spells out your obligations in terms of producing an itemization of your costs.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. I'm sorry. You have another 3 minutes if you'd like to. Anything else you'd like to say? Mr. Anonymous Tennis, you have another 3 minutes if there's additional comments you'd like to make.
Good afternoon again. Anonymous Tennis here. I would like to disagree with Mr. Strawn. I mean, this is not a special request for PDF document. He sends them out constantly to a lot of people. I mean, I've talked to people that receive them. Even the Sunshine Ordinance receives PDF documents from him. So it's really very easy to generate the document, to scan, convert, and export very easily with the software they have. Their software is like the difference between a Ferrari and a Volkswagen, the software that they have. They have the Ferrari.
I believe that's the next complaint, but
I'm just trying to support what he's trying to do, undermine our current complaint, I guess. Our current complaint is basically for us to see this itemized cost analysis. Member Coffin said at the last hearing that she saw the table and it's not in there, and that Mr. Strawn said that he would be happy to provide that relevant part. Here, he still has not provided. I mean, it's just on and on. And he says there has been no complaints, from anybody, except me, basically, and no special requests. Well, I beg to differ. We don't know that. I mean, that's just his statement. So we don't know if there has been any complaints or any problems or anything like that. So anyway, we just want to see the itemized cost analysis if we can. Thank you.
Thank you. The matter is with the task force for a motion. We're looking for a violation of 67.28D.
So move.
What about 67.21-1 is that, which is to buy systems that provide for economical
Microphone, please.
Public. I don't know if since they are involved in a 3-year plan to buy better computer equipment, and as Mr. Anonymous said, what they have now is a Volkswagen, and what they could get is a Ferrari. I believe that's what he said. In any event, it's the policy of the city to utilize computer. I'm reading from the ordinance, 67.21-1, to utilize computer technology to reduce the cost of public records management and to program and design the systems to ensure economical public access. So, if they're going to do it next month or by the end of the year, that's fine. But if they're not going to do it for 3 years, it seems to me that's not really being totally responsive to 67.211-1. So I would add that.
I don't know. I'd be reluctant to add that.
You
But
would
it's
be
not
reluctant
mine.
to
It's
add it?
Member Nee's.
Whatever.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious to know if perhaps Mr. Loretti sees that as relevant here.
I think that the main concern was 6728, and that was in discussions about it. It went around, what is currently being developed by DBI. The fact that this was a discussion I discussed during the discussion about the alleged violation of 6728, I don't think gives rise to a finding of a violation of that section.
Okay, that's fine with me.
I'm not sure it does either.
It's fine with me. I think that the previous motion was certainly on point.
Great. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, let's call the question.
On the motion, Member Craven? Aye. Member Craven, aye. Member Nee?
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon?
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn? Member Washburn excused. Member Caneva?
Aye.
Member Caneva, aye. Member Johnson? Member Johnson absent. Member Chan? Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams? Member Williams, aye. Member Chu?
Aye.
Member Chu, aye. Madam Chair, there are 7 ayes.
Thank you. So, Mr. Strawn, we're going to issue an order determination, and in that determination, we're going to ask you to produce a document describing your fees, and that will be followed up by our Education and Outreach Committee. Thank you. Can you call the next item, please?
If they're going to be followed up by the Education and Outreach Committee, I would ask the administrator to please make a note of it.
The chair will do that. Item number 16 is hearing on request for reconsideration of complaint number 08054, anonymous tenants against the Department of Building Inspection, where no action was taken by the task force.
So this is a request for us to reconsider?
Yes, I believe that the anonymous tenants filed a request for reconsideration following the non-action or no action being taken by the task force because the motions that were presented during that discussion did not yield a majority.
Okay, so we'll give anonymous tenants 5 minutes and then deliberate on whether we'll hear on whether we'll reconsider it. Does that sound okay?
Well, procedurally, usually, at least as far as our guidelines, a petition for reconsideration by an affected party is when you have actually an order that was issued or an order of determination adverse to that party, and then the party wants to ask for reconsideration, and it's usually based on new information that had been gathered or obtained that was not known at the time that the matter was first heard. That's the normal petition for reconsideration. There's this other feature that Ms. Cawthon mentioned to me is that, if the body wanted to reconsider an action that had been taken, but no formal action was taken because they didn't have enough votes, and if the members of the body wanted to recalendar it to have it heard at another meeting, that's possible too, and that has happened in other cases. But as far as I know, this matter wasn't calendared by a member of a body asking it that be put on calendar for reconsideration. It's been put on calendar because members of the tenants asked it be put on for reconsideration. So it's a little bit different a method, but you have to decide how you want to handle it now.
Okay. Well, let's hear from anonymous tenants.
Actually, can I respond to that on the request? I mean, I read our. In this case, the order of termination is that no action was taken.
Right. And
and they have submitted, they timely moved for reconsideration, and they submitted the information they claimed was not available, which was this analysis of whether or not the paper, in their view, the paper flow system could print out to a PDF. So I also agree that the procedure by which we do that is, and this is what we advised anonymous tenants last time, that they may want to just file a new complaint on this, because reconsideration means we decide now whether to reconsider it. If we say let's reconsider it, it goes to the next full task force for the reconsideration. So I think the best procedure would be to, as you suggested, hear from anonymous tenants, hear from the department, make a vote on whether or not to reconsider the hearing and have it scheduled for the next full task force. I just wanted to clarify that.
And I just wanted to add to what Ernie said about talking to me. I spoke to Evelyn Wilson, who's the parliamentarian for the school board, and I mentioned this, and she said, well, you could bring it back as a new item. You could take it up at your next meeting. She said technically there was no action, since I believe the motion, there was a vote of 5-3 in favor of the anonymous tenant's position, but there was no action since we didn't have a quorum. We didn't have a majority of the members.
Okay. Mr. Anonymous Tenants, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, members. Anonymous Tenants here again. Can I clear something up? I think Ms. Coffin said at the last hearing that she wanted to see if she can carry this case here to the next hearing because of I can't remember exactly why. Would that fall into that? I mean,
what happened
no?
was that pardon me,
Yeah.
hold his time.
We're going forward.
We did
on
have
this.
we did have the vote, but again, it did not achieve the six. It did not achieve 6.
Right.
Now, the reconsideration is that to have it here heard over again, I believe.
Yeah,
At the next meeting, that's what I said.
Yeah. So convince us why
right.
we should hear it again. We should spend another 20 minutes
All right,
hearing it something.
We requested for reconsideration for the following reasons. The Deputy City Attorney Ernest Lawrence memorandum stated, you are to determine whether DBI has capability to scan and send documents as an email attachment. Whether DBI has, number 2, whether DBI has the responsibility to scan and send requested documents. There's no question in an argument that the permit application is a public record and DBI should produce it to the public. However, Mr. Strawn and Mr. Whiteside of DBI have full knowledge that DBI has and uses Paperflow and Papervision software. We were not aware they had Papervision at the hearing. We found out. And Papervision software has export function. In our April 22nd, 2009 email to Sunshine Ordinance Task Force regarding our request for reconsideration, we have a typo in it, and it said expert function, and it should have said export function. This Papervision software was not disclosed to us and to the members at the time of the hearing. With Paperflow and Papervision, DBI can scan, convert, and send PDF documents in email to the requester without any problem. All the research I've done, and I can back it up with the documents from emails and stuff like that from companies that sell the software, that it's very easy to do all that. And they attested that they cannot do that. They tested several times. They cannot do that. There's no way they can do that. But they constantly send out documents in PDF format. We supplied you with emails from the scan store that explains that these software have the capabilities to send PDF documents. In addition, the clerical error, which did not provide to the members or us Mr. Strawn's letter of January 14, 2009, and attachments, these documents would have prompted us to do this research before the hearing, and we would have discovered the functions of the softwares DBI uses, which I just mentioned. This above information exists and was not made available at the time of the hearing. Our complaint was that Mr. Whiteside of DBI refused to provide a permit application in PDF format and email it to us. We never even got to the cost at that time, for paying it or anything. Just we wanted it in PDF format. They refused to send it. Please note that the cost issue is not in our complaint, and DBI should not be allowed to change our complaint to the cost issue. Mr. Strawn has provided documents in PDF format to us, other people, including Sunshine Task Force, when he prefers to. DBI does have the capability to convert to PDF format and export very easily. The matter in our complaint is very important to the public. We should not be denied to have a fair hearing. Please grant our request for a rehearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Strawn, would you like to add anything regarding reconsideration?
Well, I'll just repeat what I said earlier about this particular software. While we acknowledge it has the capability for conversion to PDF, we do not have that service through the contract that we have with that vendor at this time. The basic issue that I think Anonymous Tenants does not understand is the department has thousands of records, and most of them are not in a scanned format. We are currently taking all paper documents and scanning them immediately as a matter of policy. But we have a lot of records, and all of our records are address specific. So when they originally came to us and they wanted a permit application for a specific address, Alan Whiteside is the custodian of records, gave them the request form that we require of everybody to fill out. We have a certain timeline that it takes in order to be responsive to that. We make that very, very clear to everybody. Anonymous tenants decided they didn't want the record in that format. They wanted it scanned and sent as a PDF document. That required, in this particular case, taking the document from microfilm, printing it out, coming up with a paper copy, then scanning it, and it became a multiple step process that is burdensome to the staff with the kind of demands we have for public records requests, as that per our public records policies and record retention policies, we did not consider reasonable. And as I have said before, and I will say over and over again, no one else has requested this particular service. And I don't think that it really merits reconsideration under my understanding of that. Thank you.
Members, thoughts?
I was looking at the information sent in. There's a email, it's on page 293 of our packet, that I think anonymous tenants were adding for information, and it's a bunch of questions about paper flow and how it works. And the question number 4 on that page asks, if we scan a document in a paper flow, how easy would it be to send over the internet using paper flow only? And the answer from this person says, you would have to export the image out of paperflow with the version that had export. And from what I understand, even from the last time when we heard this case, that they don't have that version. So I don't think that there's anything here that we should reconsider.
Yes. And I just want to make it clear, we have found in the past that where departments have the capacity, for example, with respect to the complaint against the clerk of the board for failure to produce documents in PDF, what they were taking was a hard copy, and they were walking over to the printer, and they were making a physical copy of it. They could either choose to make a physical copy or a scanned copy. It was the same process, the same energy required to produce that copy. Therefore, we said there's no extra burden here. There's no reason why you shouldn't press scan instead of copy. Same thing for, I believe, the Ethics Commission. We said, look, you're going to have to make a copy of these documents, or when you go to print them out from your computer, if they're an electronic document, you can say print to PDF or save as Word and email that with the same amount of effort and perhaps less expense than it would be for you to print it out, make a physical copy, and mail it. What we have here is, unfortunately, a system that's been set up with proprietary software that it doesn't appear that this agency has the ability to print it directly to PDF, that they have to physically print a copy, then take that copy, which is what most people get, albeit for the outrageous cost of $6.50 a page, and then scan it and then email it. So it's a different scenario. Maybe members don't feel that additional step is too troublesome, but it's different enough for me to find that it wouldn't merit reconsideration.
Additional comments? I think we're heading towards a motion of no reconsideration.
There's just no action taken.
No action taken.
Okay. Is there public comment on this item? Seeing none, move on to the next item. Thank you.
The next item is the report from the Complaint Committee meeting of April 14, 2009.
We didn't have a quorum for the second time.
Through the chair, it's the Complaint Committee report.
Sorry, are you calling
Complaint
Sue,
Committee report.
We're starting with Complaint Committee.
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry, Mr. Goldman.
Members, the minutes in your packet are an accurate reflection of our meeting. We heard from Raymond Banks, the case we heard today. We heard from anonymous tenants we heard today. And that's about it. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on the Complaint Committee report? Seeing none. On the no, that item's closed.
That item's closed.
Yeah.
What was your question just now?
No action taken.
No action taken.
No action taken. Yeah.
That's not fair.
Sorry.
Item number 18 is a report from the Education Outreach and Training Committee meeting of April 9th.
Okay, I just want to say for the second time in 3 months, we did not have a quorum. So we had another informal gathering. We did not take minutes, make any motions, or do anything else official. However, we did hear from the woman from the Arts Commission, Sharon Page Ritchie, and she told her case was forwarded to us to see what they're going to do about their index of records, and in fact they're going to post it, and we work with her so that there would be a link on their homepage to where they do finally post their index of records. We also had Lieutenant Mahoney from the police department, and we talked about the same issue with him. All of their documents aren't ready yet, so they're going to post them in batches. And they are working on a new record retention policy, and when they have everything ready, everything will be posted. In the meantime, there will be a link on their homepage. And we sent him our PowerPoint presentation for outreach, and he's going to use it in a presentation he's giving this month to the California Police Officers Association. So we did talk a little bit about what we do about not having a quorum. And we discussed several ways of seeing that we do have one, having fewer members, having more members. In any event, I called Hanley Chan, who had expressed some interest, and said, why don't... The problem is we have 4 members, which means you have to have 3 for a quorum. So I called Hanley Chan, and he said he would be the 5th member, so we still need 3 for a quorum, but we have 5 members. So that's my report.
Microphone. That's okay.
I had a training session with the Visitation Valley Community Center directors, and it was surprising how not in compliance they are and unaware of the sunshine. So when we get together, I think about 15 executive directors were there, and they get the paper, but what happens, they really just get the papers and just put them down, and they just don't pay attention to them. So we need to do more outreach, visibly outreach, and I think this would get more to people, because people are really becoming aware. In the last 3 weeks, I don't know, they're really becoming aware of sunshine, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Okay, that concludes our report.
Seeing no public, please.
Madam Chair, you need to make that appointment, if you agree.
Make the appointment of member
Chan.
Chan.
To the
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's appoint member Chen to the EOT.
Okay.
And I had
Thank
a
you.
question. What's the PowerPoint that you referred to? When was that created? Who made it? Has it been updated recently?
It hasn't been updated recently, but it's when was it? It was developed a while
It was
ago.
2000, I think.
When,
It was 2000.
So it's 9 years old.
It is 9 years old. It was, I think it's a copy of what the CEO had then.
I'm sorry, the who?
City Attorney's
City
Office
Attorney's
had prepared it as a training instrument.
Is that the same one that the City Attorney's Office still uses?
Well, no, this is different. What they use now is something more complex, something new. This is basic. This is like Sunshine 101 or Sunshine 1A or something. It's pretty basic.
Would it make sense to be using the more updated city attorney presentation with respect to, not with respect to requirements, conflicts of interest, et cetera, but with respect to open meeting laws and public records that they currently use?
I'll answer that. When I was on the Sunshine the Education Committee last time, it was just after Prop G was passed, and so we had this. It's not 101. I would probably say 201, but it's pretty simple. And but the Sunshine Ordinance is a very complex document, and you're coming to people who don't know what you're talking about. So you need there are pictures and there's some simple text, and you have a lot of things to tell them. So we found this a very effective teaching tool. I would be happy to look at the new one, but I think if you, as a teacher, if you confuse them too much, you lose them. So if you have something really simple and you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and you tell them what you told them, usually it sinks in.
And show them the pictures, and please have the little pictures. And,
well, the new one, City Attorney's Office also has pictures, and it's the one that's provided to all city employees or officials required to submit the Sunshine Declaration. So it might be worthwhile looking at it. It also might be worthwhile looking at to see if there have been any changes in the law since 2000. Perhaps not, but in terms of Public Record Act developments, there may have been.
We'd be happy to have a look at it, but I think we would invite Member Craven to come and help us in our presentations. She can bring the baby.
Oscar would help.
A big hit.
And I'm happy to look at it with you to make sure it's legally up to date.
Okay. Who can get us a copy? Can you get us Can you get us a copy and bring it to the next? We're going to have a long agenda, and invite Ms. Craven and her baby. And her son.
Actually, if you could just
swine flu.
Yeah.
Pandemic. If you could actually email both of the PowerPoints to me, I'd be happy to look at them.
Chris, may I ask you a question?
In electronic format.
Native electronic format.
$6.50 a page.
Chris.
Marjorie?
$3.50 a page, you say? A little bit cheaper than the DBI, right?
Yeah. May I ask you a question? After we make the determinations whether it's in violation or non-violation, do you send the complainant out a letter and explain to him what has happened?
If there is a violation, we do send out an order of determination.
If there is a violation?
If there's a violation, yes.
Okay, and what their next steps are?
If it is requested by the task force, that request is also included in the letter.
Right, because sometimes we might just find a violation. For example, the violation for timeliness. That doesn't need to go to the Compliance and Amendments Committee because it was a violation that was acknowledged. So there's nothing else to be done.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying there is no further. No further action is necessary because we're finding out. We're looking in their faces. This is what me and Sue is getting up and going to these people. They're looking. What just happened?
Yeah.
So this is why you see us. We don't know these people personally, but they're just looking, and we can see it in their eye. What just happened? What did they do? And we're telling them,
We try to make it clear in the order of determination. I think perhaps we need to improve it a little bit more about what the next steps are, if any. But where it's going to be referred to the Compliance Amendments Committee, or where documents, or the Education, Outreach, and Training, or where something has to be produced within 5 days of the order of determination. So if we find a document's public and has been produced, order of determinations under our rules must say that document should be released within 5 days of issuance of the order of determination. So that information should be included so that they have some sense of what the next step will be.
This might be off topic, and I could ask later if it is, but have we ever just paused and in layman's terms, I was specifically thinking after David Larkin, and he was sitting there, and he could have been waiting to talk to Frank because he did later, but he also looked like, it was kind of anticlimactic. We were like, okay, decision, move on, and he was sitting there looking as if he was expecting more information, and it just seems like some of the people who are coming here won't necessarily understand the technicality of movements and what we vote on, and if we could just 20 seconds say, okay, so this is what this means, what we just did, so that the people directly in the audience can have some instant feedback. I don't know if that's ever happened or if we just work that in. But
I think sometimes, I think Member Comstock, when he was chair, where he saw someone who was a new complainant, who didn't have familiarity, wasn't a Chemo Crossman or Alan Grossman, who knew what was going to happen. Occasionally, if he saw that someone was looking at, would try to do that. And I think, if sometimes we can't see them out there in the audience, so if other members see someone who's looking clearly like they need additional information to, through the chair request that be done.
I'm happy to be more proactive in doing that.
Because both of us are teachers and things, and we can usually tell when somebody's eyes are bugging, and you don't know what's happening, what has gone on, transpired, and I'm glad you caught that too, because we're seeing it too, and so I'm glad that you're physically seeing.
I can't see from this angle.
I can't see anything. I see Ernie and Chris in detail.
That's all you need to see.
Yeah, really. I should sit up higher. Because I'm short.
The only point I want to make is as far as anonymous tenants, when no action was taken, he wanted to do more. He wanted rebuttal. He wanted to make a statement. And, of course, in your procedures, you don't have to do that. And, of course, I think he knows that I think he knows more than what he's saying. But I'm just saying he's going to leave frustrated, but that's the way it is, unfortunately.
Next item. If there's no other comments, we can move on to the Rules Committee. Since I'm the only member here, the meeting minutes actually are pretty detailed. Thank you, Chris, for explaining what we did and what we changed.
I have a few suggestions.
Okay.
On page 319 of the packet, Article 6, I hate Roman numerals, Section 1, second paragraph, the task force shall establish the following standing committees, rules, and then it should be education, outreach, and training. It still reads public education information. This is on page 319. That's just a text.
First paragraph. Oh, I see. Okay, yes. And to match
Thank you,
what's
there are
on
lines.
the next page.
Yes. I would also make another suggestion on page 321, line 4. Line 3 to 4, it says special committees may be composed of members of the task force. I would add in and include members of the public, city officials, or city employees as well.
Great.
Because we've contemplated doing just that. And I think in the past, actually, we have had special ad hoc committees, so I just think we should make it clear.
City officials.
City officials or city employees as well. So include members of the public, city officials, or city employees.
And that's a may include, right?
Yeah.
Gray hearts.
May include.
Anything else?
I have some other suggestions for the complaint procedure as well. Sorry.
Well, actually, let's stay with the rules just for a minute.
Yes.
Does anybody have any other comments about the rules? Is there a motion?
The bylaws?
The bylaws, I'm sorry, the bylaws.
I would move to approve the bylaws as amended.
Seconded.
Can you call the question, please?
On the approval of the bylaws, Member Craven.
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Nee.
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon. The motion to approve the bylaws as amended. Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn absent. I'm sorry, excused. Member Caneva.
Aye.
Member Caneva, aye. Member Johnson absent. Member Chan excused. Member Goldman.
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams. Aye. Member Williams, aye. Member Chu.
Aye.
Member Chu, aye. Madam Chair, we have 7 ayes.
Thank you. The complaint procedure? Yes.
I have two. One is easy and one is more difficult. Page 326, F1. The administrator shall send the order of termination to the complainant, respondent requests a response within 5 days of the receipt of the order. I would say, and as necessary, request a written response. Because it's not, as I just mentioned, it's not always necessary.
Okay.
Which shall be monitored by the SOTF Compliance and Amendments Committee or any other standing committee at the direction of the chair.
Okay, why even mention compliance amendments then? Why not just say monitored by the committee directed by the chair?
Well, I hate to toot my own horn, but what about and or EOTC or any other committee recommended by the chair?
Well, if we're going to do that, then I would say any committee recommended by the chair.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my concern, is that, we may have, a complaint that comes up, for example, I don't know, against the task force where one of our own rules was violated, and that should be referred to rules. I mean, yes, that might be not. I just don't want to foreclose the options for who is the best body to review a particular complaint. I think, we've gone into situations where we felt that departments are working in good faith. If they're working in good faith, we should refer them. If it's a systemic issue faced by members of the city family throughout, it should go to education, outreach, and training, because they're can be proactive, et cetera. I mean, but there might be a new complaint that comes up that would go to a different standing committee. So that was only my concern.
I would just say that I think the reason EOTC was added was to illuminate the new role for EOTC, but I would definitely agree with Member Craven that we should not foreclose the possibility that another committee might be the appropriate one, so I would definitely add Member Craver's language after and/or EOTC or any other committee deemed appropriate.
The other issue, which might be more controversial, is actually on page 323B1, filing a complaint with SOTF. I noticed that our procedures, the second line, the second line is, if a complaint letter is received, the administrator shall complete a complaint form and send a copy to the complainant for their review and approval. That has caused us some problems in the past where complainants have said, I don't agree with how you've recharacterized my complaint, I'm not going to approve it. I submitted a 10-page, very detailed letter that explains what I'm arguing about. That should be sufficient. I actually think that that's okay. In my view, I don't think someone should be required to approve a complaint drafted by our administrator in order to proceed. I'd like it to be the default because that does help, refine the issues and make them clear. Sometimes complainants are not the clearest of individuals. So I don't really know what to propose here, I guess is my point.
What about the thing that he makes be a cover page and include their 10-page letter as the body of the complaint? He fills out what he considers a summary, slaps it on top, and that's our complaint.
I mean, I think
through the chair, I use the original complaint as a supporting document.
Yeah, I understand that. It's really more that there's certain complainants who, may say, oh, you've left out the most important thing, or I don't feel like you've characterized it correctly. It's not that, and that may be, you may not have done anything wrong. I'm not implying you're doing anything wrong. It just may be they have a different take on it, or they're don't want to submit to your version of their complaint.
Through the chair, in the complaint box, all I say is see attached.
Yeah.
So I do not rewrite their complaint or do anything. I just say see attached.
Right.
I think where we run into problems is where the complainant has said something to you and you try to take it down or said one word and not where they sent too much. It's where they haven't sent enough. I think that's. I think I have in my mind some of the complaints. I mean, where the person said, "This is not what I said. This is not what I had." So I think it's the other side of the issue.
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't know, and maybe this is something that we can't address today. But I know it's come up repeatedly, and I'm trying to think of a way that makes both the administrator's life easier and the complainants who might be particularly wedded to a particular version of their complaint or believe they're being hoodwinked if they are forced to approve a complaint form.
I'm confused on. So I recollect this as, I forget who it was. Whoever it was, we wrote it down and we sent it to him, and they didn't want to approve what you said.
Yeah. Peter Warfield.
But he didn't necessarily dislike what you said. He just didn't want to have to prove it.
Why don't we leave out and approval? Doesn't review
I thought that was it. That he just didn't. He felt like it was an administrative thing.
Yeah. I remember that.
I don't remember
saying
about the
review
content.
because review kind of implicitly means approval.
Well, it doesn't have to be approved. I mean, I think if you can just send a copy to the complainant for their review, that would probably be sufficient and take out an approval.
I do like the idea, though, of having like the cover letter, like Member Goldman says, because then it just says either the box is filled in with the summary, or if it's not, it's just a cover letter, because what's behind is the actual complaint.
Yeah, which I think is what Chris typically does if the complaint is clear. And so, maybe that will resolve it if we just say for their review. And what that would mean for you is that, you would send it to them for their review, but they wouldn't have to agree to it. It would then proceed as a complaint. Because I know we've held back ones waiting for people's review, and I think that's caused some of the friction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it would speed up the process, too. If they weren't waiting for a review, it's got that on top, and it goes down the pipe. Yeah.
Those would be my suggestions.
Well, and then on their packet in page 234, 235, they're also complaining about our procedures, and I can't understand what they're complaining about. Our ad hoc procedures.
I read that as well a few times. It's not clear at all. I think it's what I took from it was that because they had to fill out some form beyond that, they think that we are stifling their ability to make a complaint somehow. it's a conspiracy idea. That's what I read it as. The city is trying to keep us from making this complaint altogether. So I don't think there's really a specific point to it. It's just saying that we're not able to do this, not reason why or whatever. It's just that we can't see how the city is keeping us back or whatever.
Okay. And you know how we can fix that in our rules too?
No.
Okay.
Well, take out an approval. I mean, it might. To me, I know, it was, for example, Mr. Warfield just felt offended that he would have to approve a restatement of his complaint.
I have never heard Mr. Warfield approve of anything.
Right. Well, but I'm just saying. I mean, I don't think he's unique. I think other people may feel the same.
Yeah. So I think if it's just review, and then if they have a complaint, they'll get back. But if not, it's done. It's put through. It's gone.
Okay. So we're just going to take out an approval?
Yeah.
And that other thing she said.
Yeah, that other thing.
Yeah, what she said.
Yeah. Oh, you mean on page 326?
326 versus the committees.
Right. We're going to do, right.
So motion to accept as amended?
Second.
Can you call the question, please?
On the motion, Member Craven?
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Nee?
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon?
Aye.
Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn? Member Washburn excused. Member Knebber?
Aye.
Member Knebber, aye. Member Johnson? Member Johnson absent. Member Chan? Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams? Aye. Member Williams, aye. Member Chu?
Aye.
Member Chu, aye. Madam Chair, we have 7 ayes.
Great. Compliance and Amendments Committee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I ask that the administrator post the amended bylines and the complaint committee complaint procedure as soon as you can?
Through the chair, with that.
Thank you.
Item. Sorry.
Yeah, the Compliance Amendment Committee met on April 14th, and what you see in the minutes is an accurate and thorough reflection of what occurred. As you'll note that there are still lots of works in progress there regarding the amendments to the ordinance. We've pretty much concluded that, not having heard back from any of the outside Sunshine attorneys, that they seem pretty satisfied with what Member Craven Green has put forth.
Well, I'm not so sure about that.
Okay.
I think it's perhaps they were too busy and wanted a version they can read, but we'll get it to them.
I think the consensus was Member Craven Green has agreed to perform the same task with Articles 3 and 4, and then we'll send the entire bundle back to them in what we hope is electronically readable form, and solicit their analyses and comments. Regarding the guidelines for electronic records retrieval and destruction, storage and destruction for the task force, I did submit a very preliminary draft, which is attached to the report. What we agreed is that we need to really explore what technologies are out there and what media. I am scheduled to meet next Tuesday afternoon with Frank Darby, and we'll go over what the media are available, what the capabilities are, and what the limitations are. There is one other item regarding the Compliance Amendments Committee that I will report on when it comes to announcements. And I would ask if other members of the Compliance Amendments Committee have anything they wish to add.
I would just encourage folks who might have interest in the issue of electronic record retention to, participate with Member Nee's meetings with Mr. Darby and provide us their advice or their guidance, because it is a very important issue.
Yeah, we're due to meet next Tuesday at 2 p.m.
I'm interested in email backups and getting back to those emails and all that.
Right. I think that's really going to be a major focal point of what we're doing.
Right. Well, there's a case that's going to come to you guys. What department that said they could do it? The first
I believe
department
the
ever.
PUC.
Was the PUC?
Should be scheduled to appear before the Compliance Amendments Committee, as well as who was the other one that dealt with emails from the last hearing? There's a number of the orders of termination, unfortunately, from the last that were issued by the last full task force did not get set before the Compliance and Amendments Committee, and so we didn't take any action on any of them, but that will be rectified, and all the orders of termination that have issues of outstanding compliance will be set.
Well, I'd encourage you to sort of push that PUC thing to try and get them to actually, successfully get emails from a backup. Because they said they could do it, and boy, would it be...
Well, what they said in their latest communications, as a matter of fact, I got an email today from Tony Winokur, and this is in response to the Arce and Brooks complaint. We have received the order of determination for complaint number 09006. We are unable to review backup tapes from the period in question, April and May 2008, because they have been overwritten with new backup data. The SFPUC practice is actually to keep backup tapes of emails for 6 months before they are overwritten with new backup data, not 1 year. We have to see if we can nudge them to somehow keep their emails a damn sight longer than 6 months. And perhaps in my discussions next week with Mr. Darby, we can come up with something we can pass along to the PUC.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
That completes my report.
Great. Number 21, annual report to the Board of Supervisors. As we discussed at the last meeting, I added a couple paragraphs in. One on the first page, 343, about electronic documents and the ad hoc committee, which didn't happen, and the importance of that. And then on the second page, we touched on the city attorney having decreased his number of hours committed to the Sunshine Task Force. In addition, there's a number of formatting things that need to be fixed in here. Some of them, we had some bullets that sort of got lost in the formatting, and so I'd like to fix those. And from a substantive change, on page 350, there's a discussion of what the EOT committee does, and I think that's inaccurate, and we need to update that based on the EOT's recent documents. And the chair of the Rules Committee is now Doyle. So those would be the changes I'd like to see.
Could I suggest a change as far as my name? It's misspelled.
No.
Oh, really? Sorry.
Ernie's fine, but the Ernst is not acceptable to me.
Wrong.
You're not feeling earnest?
Wrong occupation.
It's the wrong German guy.
Importance of being.
Yeah.
That other German Filipino. Oh, yeah.
Are there any other changes people would like to make? Is there a motion? About a motion to accept the annual report as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Can you call the question, please?
On the motion to approve the report, Member Craven?
Aye.
Member Craven, aye. Member Nee?
Aye.
Member Nee, aye. Member Cawthon? Member Cawthon, aye. Member Washburn? Member Washburn is excused. Member Caneva? Aye. Member Caneva, aye. Member Johnson? Member Johnson, absent. Member Chan? Member Chan excused. Member Goldman?
Aye.
Member Goldman, aye. Member Williams? Member Williams, aye. Member Chu?
Aye.
Member Chu, aye. Madam Chair, we have 7 ayes.
And thanks to Member Chu and Chris and everyone else who worked on it.
Thank you. Here, Chris, here are the stuff. And once that's done, I'll look at another draft and then we'll send it off. Thanks. Administrator's report?
It seems like there will be no complaint committee meeting next month.
Why?
Because the outstanding issue was resolved and there aren't any more complaints.
Well, we'll just be hearing the matters we continued from this meeting.
No complaints at the moment. At the moment.
At the moment, yeah, something may come up.
Oh, my God.
Vis-a-vis, I'm not going to be here, so if we do have a complaint committee, he's going to be the chair.
Chair Chu can fill in.
Yeah, really. Let me know if you need it for quorum. I can make it. Are there any other comments?
That completes my report.
Great. Any announcements? Member Nee?
A couple of things. First of all, I want to call attention to a couple of email exchanges I've had with some of the outside Sunshine attorneys. And I believe I asked that the administrator forward all of these to you. So I hope that they can answer some of the questions that have been brought before us going forward. One deals with the relative weight of the Sunshine Ordinance versus the Charter. And the other has to do with whether reliance on a city's attorney's opinion constitutes justification for failure, taking a sunshine-related action or not taking a sunshine-related action, dealing with particularly, I think, dealing with public records requests. Last and not least, the Compliance Amendments Committee met last Friday with the Ethics Commission. Going in, I would say we were there to listen to each other and to engage in constructive dialogue. We weren't there to point fingers or say gotcha. I think we succeeded to a great degree in that goal. One of the people in the audience who has been a consistent critic of the Ethics Commission, the former commissioner and former commission staff member Joe Lynn, he remarked that he was very favorably impressed by what went on. I think we learned some lessons from each other about it. Going forward, what we need to do is when we send items to the Ethics Commission, we need to provide a lot more information than what we have been. Both sides agreed that we need to provide maximum information up front when we communicate with each other. In terms of their ability to to give a thorough vetting of what we send them. If we refer them to minutes or tapes of our meeting, it's very helpful to them if we refer to specific sections of the minutes or of a tape. For instance, page such and such, line so and so of the minutes, or listen to tape number 3 of this meeting and look on the tape counter for the section from 04002 to 05003, something along that line. We need to give them as detailed information as we can in order to help them investigate the cases that we refer to them. Something that Joe Lynn said that kind of rang a bell with me, and I hope it rang a bell with everybody there. And he said that when we are or when an agency is given a request for disclosure of information, there should be really two criteria. Number one, whether the law compels disclosure, and number two, whether it's good policy to withhold information, even if the law says it's okay to do so. And I think that perhaps as we adjudicate cases that come before us, those might be good questions for us to ponder. That pretty much sums up what I have to say. There were, I know, other people here today who were at that meeting, and perhaps they'd like to add some remarks.
I would just like to thank Chair Chu and Chair Nee and Chris for doing the hard work to get the meeting scheduled and televised and all of the underlying information.
Actually, the televising was not done by the city. It was done by a gentleman contracted by Alan Grossman.
Is that right?
That's my understanding.
Well, it's interesting because it ended up showing up on the screens on the dais.
It always says when you're in the room, though, with the camera.
Interesting.
So it doesn't mean they're recording.
Oh, well, I appreciate the clarification.
I'd like to make a comment. I would appreciate if when we have these type of things, if they could be a little bit later, because there's only one day a week where I can be here at this time. So, and it's just a personal thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but.
I just wanted to say one thing about the meeting with the Ethics Commission. One of the things that bothered me, though, although it was a cordial meeting, is that Mr. St. Croix, the director of the Ethics Commission, seems to feel that the only complaint that they can review of ours is one for willful misconduct. And I think that's a pretty high standard to achieve. So I'm wondering if there's any way that there's any wiggle room around that concept, and if not, if we can amend when we amend the ordinance, we think about that. That's a pretty high barrier.
As I explained in the meeting, I don't believe that is the appropriate interpretation.
Good.
I believe they do have power to review regular violations, but also I believe that we are addressing that in the amendments as well to spell it out.
Yeah.
We left that with their attorney, didn't we?
Well, Mr. St. Croix indicated that he had initial discussions with the Ethics Commission's attorney about exploring both the ordinance in more depth and the Ethics Commission's own internal powers as to whether or not they could investigate violations that didn't rise to the level of a willful misconduct. So they were going to investigate that, and then I also chipped in with my interpretation of the ordinance, and that we would be looking at that in the amendments as well.
Great.
Because one of the things I was looking at the annual report, and there are some departments that are consistent. They consistently have complaints filed against them, and while it may not be willful misconduct, it certainly is sloppiness.
Where the process is as far as I felt like that component went hand in hand with having a list of enforcement activities they could do, because they were like, we need a scale, we need to know what would be appropriate to what. And I saw that was referenced in the 2007 transcript that we got in preparation for the meeting for Friday. So where does that stand now as far as, have we drafted anything? Is it sitting somewhere right now? Like, are we in the process of that?
We have some amendments that we've drafted and that were approved by the full task force that the Compliance Amendments Committee is finalizing. We may need to look at those again and make sure that we've provided the type of additional powers and additional levels of enforcement to address this issue of violations that aren't necessarily willful, and to provide the Ethics Commission with additional enforcement mechanisms. So there are revisions that I believe, should be posted on our website that show the proposed amendments to Article 4, I believe, the enforcement section.
And we're thinking about taking those to the ballot in 2010, November 2010?
So it's a part of the whole ballot initiative process.
It would be the ballot initiative, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do before it's taken to the ballot as far as...
It has to go to the ballot.
We can review them, we can finalize them, and we can build support for them with members of the board and find out if departments have concerns, build support.
Madam Chair, and I think we never got back to James. Did you make a suggestion or something a few minutes ago?
I just said that
I could understand.
2
Supposed to be more
o'clock
convenient.
is hard for me, except because
okay.
Tuesdays, I'm a teacher, and Tuesdays.
Okay, yeah.
Good to know.
So if at all possible in the future, a little bit later.
You could always show up late, too.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, on Fridays especially good.
We weren't. Please.
I do have one other item briefly. Some of you might be aware that at Attorney General Jerry Brown's request, Assemblywoman Carter from Rialto brought a bill that would have authorized courts to curb individuals' right to request public records. The bill was due to be heard last Tuesday in the Assembly Judiciary Committee, and the author of the bill withdrew it. So what I understand is it's dead for this year. However, we should not drop our guard on this.
It was to curb allegedly vexatious litigant,
Yeah, right.
vexatious requesters, and it was opposed by the California Newspapers Publishers Association and CalAwares, and I believe the California
SBJ.
First Amendment Coalition as well.
Wow. I think we even got there.
Yeah, vexatious requester. We should have chemo in here. Get poor chemo.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then
Adjourn?
we are adjourned. I know, really got
No. I think he's resting. I think we had